The story begins in the heart of an industrial district shrouded in twilight, where a strict order has been issued to immediately find two fugitives. The pursuers, led by a man with a gun, firmly believe the fugitives haven't gone far and instructs his men to shoot them on sight. In an alley, a silver-haired girl is tightly holding a young man covered in blood and severely injured. Despite his critical condition, he urges her to run for her life. But the girl's face, stained with blood and etched with desperate tear tracks, is filled with refusal as she screams her rejection of his plea. She painfully wonders what's the point of living alone without him, expressing her firm resolve never to leave him behind. The injured young man looks at her with a faint smile and asks if they should just die together. The girl is stunned by his question, while he, exhausted on the ground, insists he's serious. Suddenly, he grabs her forcefully, pulling her towards him, revealing intense jealousy and confessing he can't bear the thought of seeing her with another man. After hearing his confession, she sadly holds his hand and agrees to the suggestion of dying together in a firm voice. He is taken aback by her response, wondering in shock if she has gone mad. He suddenly struggles to his feet, pulling her along, telling her to stop talking such nonsense and run for her life. But at that very moment, his eyes widen in shock as a gun is suddenly pointed at them. To protect her, he pushes her away in desperation while shouting a refusal. Just before the gunshot rings out, he collapses on top of her, bleeding profusely, begging her to live. She holds him, screaming his name, Seo Do-kyun, as he takes his last breath in her arms. The girl weeps bitterly beside his body, whispering that if he dies like this, she will too. The scene suddenly cuts to a video game's option screen, presenting her with two choices: follow him in death or avenge him. The perspective shifts to the real world, where a girl with glasses stares at the screen in shock, realizing what's happening is a death flag for her character. In the game, she sits in front of her laptop, lamenting having reached another bad ending where everyone dies. She sighs in surprise as she realizes how many hours she has spent immersed in this game. The game is an adult-rated romance simulation game called Gangster's Love, famous not for its bold content, but for its tragic and violent story. Despite rumors that it has no good ending, the girl stubbornly persists in trying to achieve one. She has already witnessed dozens of bad endings and starts to doubt whether it's right to keep playing. She checks her phone to read game reviews, which mention a playtime of 40 hours and conclude that the male lead, Seo Do-kyun, dies and the female lead, Un-sol, is on the verge of death. She reads sarcastic comments from other players who gave up early, confirming that all paths lead to a bad ending and that the game relies entirely on the male lead's charm. Despite being tired and hesitant, she decides to keep playing just to see the ending for herself before giving up completely. Back in the game, her character, Un-sol, chooses the first option, grabs the gun, says this is her love for Seo Do-kyun, and then points it at her own head. The words bad ending 26 out of 100 appear on the screen, making the player wonder exhaustedly how many more times these two protagonists have to die. She starts to think that although the male lead is handsome, the female lead is too attached to him, and dating a gangster only leads to ruin. This is a well-known fact in the world of Gangster's Love. The male lead is the leader of the underworld, and falling in love with him means a 99 chance of death. The girl gets up from her seat, genuinely wondering why she's wasting her time playing this tragic game she describes as trash. The player lies on her bed, wondering why this is happening on such a special day. She's celebrating her birthday alone with fast food and a small piece of cake. She coldly looks at her phone screen, filled with birthday wishes and promotional notifications, mocking the idea that it's a special day. She gets out of bed and starts drinking beer, complaining about this miserable celebration she sarcastically calls a very happy birthday. In anger and despair, she pounds her fist on the desk, loudly questioning what's so special about a birthday anyway. She tries to convince herself she's fine, arguing that her life has never had any special moments worth mentioning. She looks at the computer clock, which shows it's almost 4 a.m., and realizes there's still a long way to go to reach a new ending in the game. Exhaustion hits, and she rests her head on the desk. Despite her strong denials, her true loneliness is palpable. She recalls the tragic scene where Seo Do-kyun confessed he couldn't stand seeing his beloved with another man, and in that moment, the player admits to herself that love is something she has completely given up on in her life. The tragic scene in the game continues, with the girl pointing the gun at her own head after her lover's death, deepening the player's feeling that she has never experienced such an emotion in her entire life. On this birthday, she wonders why her thoughts have become different and secretly wishes she could experience that kind of love, even just once. Suddenly, a loading screen appears on the computer, and she finds herself face-to-face with a young man in a school uniform, whom she recognizes as a teenage SEO, Do-kyung. Confusion envelopes her as she wonders why she can see the details of his face so clearly, as if she were really right beside him. She looks around in shock, discovering she is no longer in her room, but in a classroom. Her gaze falls on a banner hanging on the wall, which reads, "Eat well," adding to her confusion and surprise. She looks at her hands in disbelief, realizing she can actually touch the objects around her. She touches her school uniform and finds a name tag with the name Beck Ehai, realizing it is indeed her, but she doesn't understand why she's wearing this uniform. When she sees her reflection in a mirror, she is stunned by her new appearance. Despite the shock, she can't help but admit to herself that she looks pretty. She goes through a wave of denial and shock, the typical stages a protagonist goes through when transported to another world. First confusion, then slapping herself to make sure it's not a dream, and finally, a desperate scream. Finally, she begins to accept the fact that she has indeed been transported into the world of the game gangster's love. She notices SEO Do-kyung staring at her name tag, Beck Ehai, which makes her feel confused and anxious. She nervously clutches her shirt as the scene continues to load, his steady gaze adding to her unease. Suddenly, a system window resembling a game interface appears before her, welcoming her and announcing that the minor gangster SEO, Do-kyung, has noticed the presence of the supporting character. She marvels as she realizes she's seeing the game's special status window, confirming she's no longer in the real world. Another system message appears, stating that SEO Do-kyung is starting to take an interest in her. She is shocked by this unexpected development, thinking it's utter nonsense. Panic grips her as she realizes that a gangster taking an interest in her, even if he is the main character, is never a good sign. Meanwhile, the teacher enters the classroom and announces the end of the school day, while the students complain about him being late. Beck Ehai feels increasingly anxious, worrying if SEO Do-kyung's sudden interest will actually get her into trouble. A glowing system icon appears between her and SEO Do-kyung, and she wonders in horror if the main character has already targeted her. A guide map then appears before her, showing the fastest route to her parents' friend's house, and she begins to follow the directions. As she walks down the street, she tries to calm herself and process the surreal new situation she has suddenly been thrown into. She remembers going to the school's computer lab to search for the game gangster's love, but found no results, making her realize the game doesn't exist in this world. Walking outside, she realizes that the status window appearing before her is the only thing she can rely on, as it's the same window she had been seeing until the moment of her death in her previous life. Beck Ehai's character information appears in the system window, revealing her tragic background. She lost her father at a young age, her mother recently passed away, and she is now a second-year high school transfer student who will be living at her parents' friend's house. A sense of loneliness washes over her as she realizes she is still alone, even after moving to a new world. She thinks about her inevitable fate as the character Beck Ehai, wishing she could have taken on the role of the heroine, Sol, but quickly reconsiders, realizing the heroine's life would be even shorter and more dangerous. Suddenly, SEO Do-kyung appears behind her, telling her she's going the wrong way. She is startled by his sudden appearance and extreme proximity, jumping away with a loud protest and a fit of anger. When she recognizes him, she asks in confusion and surprise why he is on this path. But a system window warns her that her reaction has displeased SEO Do-kyung, making her scream internally, worried that this situation will lead her to a bad ending. To her surprise, SEO Do-kyung shows no anger and instead turns and walks away silently. This leaves her confused. The system window appears again, this time showing a map marked with his path and ordering her to follow him, only for her to discover that they share the same way home. She walks behind him, contemplating the strange situation. Being his desk mate and sharing the same route home seems like good luck, but she's actually scared to death. As they reach their destination, she peeks out from behind him and happily announces that they've arrived. She excitedly realizes that this is the large house where she will be living, and at that moment, a voice calls out to SEO Do Kyung as young master. A group of men in black suits respectfully bow to SEO Do Kyung and welcome him home, much to her astonishment. She stands frozen, a million questions running through her mind, unable to comprehend what is happening. SEO Do Kyung turns to her and asks what she's doing standing there, telling her to come inside, which adds to her shock. Finally, she realizes the terrifying truth. As a minor supporting character, she is going to live in the male lead's house. Two huge guard dogs suddenly appear before her, filling her with extreme fear. Her shock intensifies when the men in black suits also bow to her and formally welcome her as young miss. In a state of utter confusion, Becky High tries to get out of the situation, claiming they have the wrong name and that she is someone else entirely. Her strange behavior confuses the men, while she privately wishes they would just ignore her. SEO Do Kyung coldly interrupts her, telling her to stop joking and get inside. A system window shows that SEO Do Kyung finds her joke not funny at all, and he tells her that he has already heard about her from his father. She is stunned to learn that he knew of her arrival in advance. She follows him inside, wondering who his father is, as she has little memory of this father from the game, where his appearances were very rare. SEO Do Kyung enters the luxurious mansion and announces his return, and the maids line up to greet him. As she stands in the grand hall of the mansion, she catches a glimpse of a man standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at them. He is an elegant and imposing man, and he speaks directly to her, asking if she is Becky High. She is overcome with extreme confusion, greeting him with a stammering voice, realizing she is standing face-to-face with the male lead's father. Meanwhile, SEO Do Kyung's younger brother is watching the scene, his face filled with resentment and boredom. SEO Do Kyung walks up the stairs, while his younger brother quickly leaves with an indifferent expression. A system window appears before Beck Ehai, announcing in a welcoming manner that the minor gangster SEO Do Kyung welcomes the supporting character Beck Ehai to the mansion. As his father, SEO Yui Hyan, descends the stairs, he notes her appearance and confirms her identity. He approaches her and tells her she looks just like her mother, which shocks her and makes her realize she is standing before the leader of a gangster family. Extreme confusion envelopes her as she wonders in amazement how he could know her mother. She quickly connects the events and concludes that if her parents were friends with a gang boss, they were likely gangsters too. SEO Yui Hyan confirms this by commenting that she is as absent-minded as her father. The man introduces himself as SEO Yui Hyan. He explains to her that this house is not ordinary, realizing that it might be confusing to suddenly move in, but he confirms that this is all being done according to her parents' will, so there is no other choice. The contents of the will are revealed, requesting that they protect Becky High until she becomes an adult. But SEO Yui Hyan adds a condition. As long as she stays within the boundaries of the floor she resides on, she will face no interference. She panics at the thought of living as a freeloader in the main character's house, which is filled with danger and potential threats. But her biggest concern suddenly shifts to a practical matter, and she screams, asking about the monthly rent as she has no money. SEO Yui Hyan is surprised by her question about rent, and one of his men informs him of her misunderstanding of the situation. SEO Yui Hyan sighs sarcastically, asking if he looks like a loan shark who extorts money from students, confirming her stay will be completely free. This, however, only increases her suspicion and doubt. She tries to evade the situation with a nervous smile, suggesting she go home to think about it first, having already made up her mind to run away. SEO Yui Hyan coldly interrupts her, telling her she has no home to return to because he has already sold it. She is left dumbfounded by this sudden news. She furiously questions him, refusing to believe what he said and asking what right he had to do that. She suddenly changes her plan, waving at SEO Do Kyung with a fake smile, announcing she'll head in for now and see him at school tomorrow, all while planning to escape and transfer schools as far away as possible. As she is scoffing at the whole situation and how someone could so easily sell another person's house, even in a fictional world, her thoughts are interrupted by a sudden sound. The system window appears, announcing an update to her profile. Her current status is that her house has been sold and she has become a homeless wanderer. She stands silently, absorbing the update that appeared on the system window. Faced with this harsh reality, she collapses to her knees, wondering angrily if being a gangster gives them the right to do whatever they want. SEO Do Kyung and his father approach her. He turns to her and asks if she is okay. He grabs her arm and asks what's wrong, so she musters her courage and decides to adapt to the situation. In that moment, her expression completely changes, replaced by a bright, smiling face as she announces to SEO Yui Hyen that she has decided to stay and fulfill her parents' will, thus activating her survival mode. She bows in complete submission, declaring she will live here humbly, which impresses SEO Do Kyung's father, who comments that she is starting to act sensibly. He then orders his son, SEO Do Kyung, to show her to the room next to his. The son obediently replies, while Baek Ihai watches them with a forced smile, preparing for her new life. SEO Do Kyung leads her towards an elevator, so she asks him in confusion where they are going and why they are taking an elevator. He coldly replies that they are going to the second floor, which surprises her. Inside the elevator, her surprise grows as she wonders if it's necessary to take an elevator just to go to the second floor, especially since they're going up from the third floor, reflecting the immense size of the mansion. Upon arriving, SEO Do Kyung stops in front of a door, tells her this is her room, and instructs her to change her clothes, saying he will be back later. He then adds that he has something more to say. He turns to her with a serious expression, warning her that it's in her best interest to be quiet and well-behaved, revealing that he extremely dislikes being annoyed. She shivers as she realizes she has officially caught the attention of this dangerous main character. After issuing his warning, SEO Do Kyung announces his departure. Left alone, she opens the door to her room, only to be stunned by its luxury and spaciousness, which exceeds all her expectations. She silently gazes at the large room, furnished with elegant furniture, including a piano, a large wardrobe, and a desk. The beauty and luxury of the room leave her completely in awe, and she cannot hide the intense fascination she feels. She happily twirls around the room, exploring its contents, from the luxurious bed to the modern computer and even a giant, adorable teddy bear. But she quickly comes to her senses, shaking her head to remind herself that this is not the time to be fascinated and waste time. She walks seriously towards the computer, determined to use her stay in the main character's house to gather as much information as she can about this world. She sits in front of the screen and begins to recall her last memories from her previous life, which mostly consisted of her playing the game while drinking until a splitting headache and sleepiness overcame her. She also remembers her wish from that night, where she hoped to experience the kind of deep love she saw in the game at least once in her life. Fear strikes her as she connects her wish to what happened to her, wondering if she entered this body because of that desperate wish. Panic grips her as she wonders if she now has to date SEO Do Kyung, assuring herself that she wasn't desperate enough to make such a wish. She notices something strange. She doesn't remember a character named Baek Ihai from the original game, and she realizes her current appearance is very similar to her real one, while her orphan status also matches her previous life. She concludes that this character was probably designed specifically for her, and her personal settings from her real life became the settings for the character Baek Ihai in this world. She starts searching for information, but remembers that the game focused mainly on the heroine Unsol's perspective, so there isn't much information about supporting characters or how Baek Ihai's parents got involved with the SEO family. She remembers the only certain piece of information is that SEO Do Kyung entered the gangster world early after his father's tragic death. She recalls a line of dialogue from the game that mentioned the male lead's father died in the summer of their second year of high school. The cause of death was an assassination by a spy, which forced SEO Do Kyung to take over the leadership of the Yiyun faction to succeed his father. She suddenly realizes that she is now in her second year of high school, a timeline that perfectly fits the events before the main story takes place. She concludes that she is living in the timeline a year before the main game begins, a period that only appeared as a brief introduction in the game, when SEO Do Kyung's father was still alive. Anxiety envelopes her at the thought that the man, SEO Do Kyung's father, will soon be killed, and his son will inevitably walk a path of destruction. She sits at her desk, realizing she is the only one who knows the future and wonders if she can intervene to prevent Seo Do-kyung's tragic fate. Her thoughts are interrupted by a loud bang as someone forcefully pushes open her door and suddenly appears behind her, startling her. It is a young man with a sarcastic smile. He contemptuously asks what she is doing, describing her as a wanderer who glued herself to the computer as soon as she arrived. His insult sparks her anger, as she internally wonders who this rude person is to dare call her a wanderer. But she quickly recognizes him. He is the same young man she saw earlier on the staircase railing, Seo Do-kyung's younger brother. Suddenly, the young man grabs the chair she is sitting on and yells in her face, criticizing her for suddenly deciding to live with them. Seo Do-kyung's younger brother yells in her face, telling her not to interfere in their family affairs and to leave immediately. But she is not intimidated and instead thinks angrily and resentfully, calling him a rude bastard and stressing that she never wanted to come here in the first place. She stands up and bravely confronts him, telling him to get out of her room immediately and angrily questioning the reason for his strange behavior. In the midst of this argument, Seo Do-kyung quietly enters and stops his brother by placing a hand on his shoulder. He then scolds his brother for using foul language before turning to Baek Ihai and asking why she hasn't changed out of her school uniform yet. The younger brother backs down, calling him brother, while Baek Ihai internally confirms his identity, realizing he is indeed Seo Do-kyung's biological younger brother. The brother complains about her hostility, to which Seo Do-kyung coldly replies that he is no better, pointing out that they are both in the wrong. Seo Do-kyung ends the argument, telling them both to come downstairs because everything is ready. Baek Ihai wonders in confusion why they are being summoned and what is ready. When she goes downstairs, she finds before her a luxurious dining table beyond imagination, laden with the most delicious food and a huge birthday cake. She is stunned by the lavishness of the food and asks if they always eat like this. Seo Do-kyung's father explains to her that it is a special occasion and tells her not to just stand there, but to sit and eat. Then Seo Do-kyung reveals the reason for the celebration, telling her that today is her birthday, which leaves her in a state of extreme shock. The father adds that her birthday coincided with her arrival, that she must have had a hard time, and tells her to eat well and cheer up. Then Seo Do-kyung's younger brother orders the maids to bring the cake. She sits at the table in a state of shock, while a system window appears, warning that Seo Do-kyung has noticed an abnormal state in her behavior. Sure enough, Seo Do-kyung notices her teary eyes and directly asks if she is crying. Baek Ihai tries hard to hold back her tears, but they well up as she watches the family scene at the table. She takes a bite of the cake, savoring its rich flavor and thinking to herself that she is tasting the flavor of money, not just cake. Her voracious eating surprises the younger brother, who sarcastically asks if she has been starving for days. Meanwhile, Seo Do-kyung watches her with interest, and another system window appears, stating that he is captivated by her gluttony. She notices his gaze and sarcastically wonders if he is looking at her like a hungry dog. The father urges them to eat, and the atmosphere becomes warm and family-like as they thank him for the meal. Baek Ihai is deeply moved, wondering how long it has been since she last had a meal with others and never expecting they would celebrate her birthday. The father interrupts the quiet moment, announcing that he has an important statement to make. Seo Do-kyung allows him to speak, while Baek Ihai is contemplating a quiet and isolated life in this mansion. The father speaks to both Seo Do-kyung and Baek Ihai, announcing his intention to hold an engagement ceremony for them next spring when they come of age. The news is so shocking to her that she spits water out of her mouth in a state of complete disbelief. His younger brother is disgusted by her reaction, screaming and describing her behavior as gross. She pulls herself together and confronts Seo Do-kyung, asking if he knew, unable to believe she is going from a guest to a fiancé. Seo Do-kyung calmly and confidently replies that he knew all along. She erupts in anger, insisting that this is insane and that it's the first she's hearing of it. SEO Do Kyung's father explains that the decision was made as a pact between their families before they were even born. Confusion hits Becky high as she internally wonders what will become of the original heroine, Eun's soul, if she becomes SEO Do Kyung's fiancée and realizes with horror that she has just walked into the role of the villain in the story. She strongly protests the decision, denouncing the right of adults to decide their fate and adding that even if she doesn't care about looks, she cares more about a man's character. Her comment enrages the younger brother, SEO Yul, who stands up and slams the table, defending his brother's character and wondering who she is to reject him like that. The argument between them escalates, with her yelling in his face that this whole family is a burden to her. SEO Yul retorts for her to refuse the engagement and leave immediately, to which she replies that it's better for him since he hates her anyway. The father interrupts their quarrel with a firm voice and an angry look, ordering everyone to be quiet. He then turns his attention to his younger son, SEO Yul, scolding him for being too loud. The father continues his reprimand, reminding him of the need to observe table manners and not to scream. SEO Yul feels embarrassed and falls silent, while Baek Ihai notices that the father is much harsher with him, even though she was screaming too. She looks at him, feeling some sympathy, realizing he must be hurt by his father's severity. After the situation calmed down, the father explained that the engagement was merely a formal and unofficial procedure, and they could do as they pleased after it was done. This made Ihai feel sorry for the earlier chaos and relieved, thinking it was only natural that the eldest son of a gang boss wouldn't marry an ordinary girl. She turned to Dokyum, wondering if he could still stomach his food. After a bout of commotion, Ihai noticed Yul sitting at the table with a sad expression on his face. Late that night, Ihai sat on her bed, exhausted from the shock of the engagement announcement, complaining that she had become a minor and couldn't even drink to relieve her stress. She fell into deeper thought, worrying about the fate of her body in the real world, not knowing if she was dead or still asleep. It pained her to think she had so easily given up the life she had fought for, but she decided to set aside these fears for now and set a goal for herself to survive. She resolved to be a true supporting character, to live quietly and stay away from the main events, hoping to find a chance to return to her own world or at least become independent in the future. She recalled the dinner party, admitting that she had initially thought of running away immediately. Initially, the warmth of that family moment and the celebration held for her made her reconsider the idea of running away for the time being. As she savored those feelings, she realized it was the first time in her life she had spent such a special birthday. Her thoughts were interrupted by a light knock on the door, and she wondered in confusion who it could be. Dokyum's voice came from outside the door, asking if she could come out for a moment if she wasn't asleep, which surprised her. She opened the door, and he told her it was nothing serious or important. He first apologized for his younger brother Yul's behavior, explaining that he was just born that way and asking her not to be affected by his actions. At such a late hour, his extreme proximity and handsome appearance flustered her, and she felt the situation was unfair. She asked if he had come to her room at this time just to say that, which he denied while moving closer. He calmly told her that the two of them had to go somewhere together after school tomorrow, just the two of them. The next day, she found herself with him at a luxury clothing store, mentally admitting she was terrified, thinking they were there to prepare for the engagement. She soon realized it was the second round of her birthday celebration, and they were there to buy her new clothes, following his father's request for him to buy her everything she wanted. She saw the invitation as an excellent and irreplaceable opportunity and began to excitedly browse the store with him. She eagerly asked Dokyum how much she could spend, and he replied coolly that she could take whatever she wanted, as his father had told him not to worry about such things. Hiding a sly smile, she thought to herself that she would spend so much money that the word engagement would never cross his mind again. Dokyum confirmed his approval and took out a luxurious black credit card, handing it to her. As she took the card from his hand, she thought that his words were unexpectedly moving, almost making her heart skip a beat. She excitedly grabbed his hand and declared how grateful she was to his father, thus confidently beginning operation Get Disqualified as a fiancé. She snatched the card and told the saleswoman she would buy everything from this section to that section. But she was shocked when the saleswoman told her the total exceeded 98 million won. This extravagance left her completely stunned when Dokyum asked the saleswoman to complete the payment in one go. Panicked, she tried to back down, apologizing and suggesting they reselect and keep only a few items, as she had thought the amount wouldn't exceed a few thousand at most. Dokium mocked her for acting so confident at first and now hesitating. So she defended herself by saying she hadn't expected the brand to be so ridiculously expensive. She paused to think for a moment, then asked Dokium why he had come with her and if he wanted to buy something for himself. He denied it, explaining that he came because he had free time and it would be a hassle if she got lost on the way. Ihai realized this was the typical tsundere style that main characters follow, an indirect way of showing concern. She appreciated his hidden kindness, realizing that before being a member of a gangster family, he was first and foremost the protagonist of a romance story. She thanked him for his concern with a bright smile and told him she was going to try on one of the outfits. As she walked away, a system window appeared, showing that Dokium's heart rate was starting to accelerate, which piqued her curiosity. She asked him not to go far and to wait for her, and he agreed. After a moment, she called out to him from the dressing room, asking if he was still outside, and he told her to come out. She emerged from the dressing room in a new dress, playfully asking for his opinion on her appearance. She looked beautiful in the white dress and nervously asked if it suited her. Dokium froze for a moment, and the system window showed that his heart rate was rapidly accelerating. This was the 17th time. He tried to hide his feelings, telling her to pick what she wanted. She asked if she should buy it if he said it suited her, so he confirmed irritably, saying it was his father's money anyway. She persisted, asking if the dress suited her, and he replied reservedly that it suited her in its own way. His answer made her happy, and she decided to buy the dress immediately, even wearing it right out of the store. But she went back and asked the saleswoman to show her other clothes, excluding the ones that cost thousands of dollars. The clerk told her she could try on anything she liked without limit. This situation triggered his heart rate again, and the system window showed his heart continued to beat, accumulating to 19 times by sunset. Ihai felt like she had truly become the youngest daughter of a CEO's family that day. By the car, one of their men asked her to wait a moment until he finished his call, and she politely agreed. Sitting in the luxury car, surrounded by shopping bags and seated next to Dokium, she felt extremely happy, as if she had received a real birthday present. She smiled sincerely, thanking him profusely, and thought that in a life like this, having a fake family didn't seem bad at all. Ihai expressed her overflowing happiness while Dokium watched her silently. He tried to credit his father, saying the money was his, but she insisted on also thanking him for waiting so long. He replied coolly that it was enough as long as she was satisfied. His kindness surprised her when he added that he should at least provide her with this much. He then explained that he was doing it because she was a guest and his father had asked him to treat her well. Hearing the word guest, her enthusiasm came to a sudden halt as the words seemed to draw a line between them. She then realized she had exaggerated her feelings and wondered why the word bothered her. She understood the reason for her annoyance was the realization of the truth, that he was taking care of her only because she was a guest. But she quickly regained her composure, mentally thanking him for bringing her back to reality. She confirmed from this act that he was indeed the main character of the story, one who knew how to draw clear boundaries. After returning to the mansion, she noticed that the CO brothers did not welcome her warmly. She realized that Dokium represented a constant headache, as he always disturbed her peace. Due to his cold behavior, when they entered the door, his younger brother Yul was waiting for them and mocked her new clothes, while Dokium ordered one of his men to take the bags to her room, ignoring his brother who was always trying to pick a fight with her. Yul tried to show sympathy for Dokium, thinking he hated shopping, but Dokium denied it, which frustrated Yul. Just then, their father appeared at the top of the stairs and invited them to have dinner together. Despite the tense atmosphere, Ihai tried her best to fit into this strange family, especially by adhering to the strict rule that breakfast and dinner must be eaten together. During dinner, Dokium handed her a piece of high-quality meat and asked how she liked it cooked, which took her by surprise. She was amazed by this special treatment, thinking it was VIP-level service, while Yul excitedly demanded the same. Despite this luxurious life, Ihai did not forget her identity as a supporting character and her dangerous situation as the potential fiancée of a gangster, and she continued to plan her safe escape at the first opportunity. However, despite her escape plans, she indulged in the pleasures of her new life, shown relaxing in a luxurious bathtub, admitting to herself that this was the real life and she was tasting the flavor of success. She continued to pamper herself, fully convinced that nothing could heal the soul better than the thrill of shopping. This sense of satisfaction and happiness carried over to school the next day, where she was completely absent-minded, smiling blissfully as she recalled her new life. Her daydream was interrupted by the teacher's angry voice, who repeatedly called her name, forcing her to apologize for her distraction. As she felt embarrassed, she noticed her deskmate, Dokium, staring at her, so she angrily questioned why he was staring. Meanwhile, the teacher began to scold the class, reminding them that they couldn't start slacking off just because the holidays were approaching. The word holidays shocked her, and she realized she had been so engrossed in luxury that she had completely forgotten about this major event. The word brought her back to a harsh reality, as she remembered a key piece of information from the game Mr. Co. Yui Hyan. Dokium's father died before the start of their second-year summer vacation. A sudden determination filled her, and she decided in her heart to protect Mr. Co. Yui Hyan, to prevent his son Dokium's character from turning bad and descending into the dark world of crime. To her noble motive, she added a selfish one, her desire to prolong her luxurious life. But she suddenly stopped and looked at her phone, starting to write a note on it titled, "Must save Iseo Yui Hyan," realizing that if she succeeded in preventing his death, Dokium's character wouldn't turn bad. Ihai continued to think about her plan, wondering if Dokium would have become a gangster at all if his father had lived. She fell into a daydream, imagining that if he could stay on the right path until graduation, she could live a peaceful life by the side of the most handsome man in this universe. She suddenly realized the idea wasn't bad at all, but her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of knocking on a car window. That knocking was the terrifying memory of the original female protagonist, Moon's soul, which sent her into a panic, reminding herself that the real female lead would transfer to their school next year and she shouldn't get carried away with her fantasies. Dokium pulled her back to reality with a dry reminder that she was just a guest his father had asked him to treat well. She tried to pull herself together, ordering herself to focus on the primary mission, to review Seo Yui Hyan's story and find the spy who would kill him. She was certain that Dokium had mentioned in the game that his father was killed by a spy. She began to analyze the situation, realizing that since Mr. Seo Yui Hyan was the owner of a famous public company, the spy was either the boss of a rival company or the head of another gang. She ruled out the possibility that someone of that status would personally carry out a spy mission, and concluded that the killer must be someone very close, feigning loyalty and living under the same roof with them. Just then, a system window appeared, telling her that Dokium was peeking at her phone. Dokium was surprised by what he read on the screen, and asked what the phrase, "must save Mr. Seo Yui Hyan" meant. Panicked, she tried to get out of the situation, claiming she hadn't written anything important and that his father was already alive and well. She angrily questioned Dokium why he was peeking at her phone. In return, he scolded her for writing his father's name in such an informal way, which made her realize her mistake and try to find a way out. To change the subject, she announced with a forced smile that it was because she admired his father. Dokium looked at her, confused, wondering what kind of admiration this was. She continued her enthusiastic act, gushing about his father's handsome and youthful appearance, while the driver watched the scene in confusion. Dokium calmly asked her what she was worried about, as long as his father was handsome. Realizing that logic wouldn't save her, she decided to continue the crazy act, whispering slyly to him that she was worried she might become his mother. Her words were enough to make the driver lose his mind, and the car suddenly swerved on the road as the driver screamed in terror. Ihai anxiously asked if he was okay, while Dokium watched silently. The driver blamed himself for not paying attention and whispered to her that it was very rude to say such things in front of the son, and that she surely couldn't be serious. She assured him she wasn't serious at all, but she realized she couldn't easily take back those words and would have to be careful in the future. She tried to remedy the situation, apologizing to Dokium and assuring him she had never thought about it and just wanted to express that he was handsome. He replied that he was relieved to hear her say that. She let out a sigh of relief, surprised that she had dared to joke with him like that, feeling that she had become more comfortable around him. She refocused her attention on the primary mission, the spy case. She was convinced that the spy had to be one of Mr. Seo Yui Hyan's closest aides. When she arrived at the mansion, she found Mr. Seo Yui Hyan waiting for her, and she thought to herself that if one of the trusted aides was a traitor, an attack could happen at any moment. Yui Hyan noticed her distraction and asked her seriously what she was thinking about. She feigned composure and greeted him. He kindly asked about her day at school. She looked at him with pity, thinking that he had no idea he was going to die soon. Mr. Seo Yui Hyen noticed her anxious gaze and asked if something was wrong. Unable to hold back, she decided to warn him directly, asking him to be aware of the presence of a spy and to keep it in mind. After saying these words, she felt confused and anxious, expecting him to dismiss her words as nonsense. But to her surprise, he answered her calmly and seriously, confirming that he would take her warning into consideration. She was shocked by his reaction. After reassuring her, he told her to go change her clothes and then come down for dinner. Mr. Seo Yui Hyen left, while one of his men watched them from a distance with a mysterious gaze. As she entered her room, she couldn't believe that Mr. Seo Yui Hyen had actually believed her. Suddenly, a bright and dazzling system window appeared before her, making her scream and cover her eyes. She noticed that this system window was brighter and more powerful than usual. A new mission officially appeared before her to ensure the survival of Seo Yui Hyen, with clear rewards and penalties attached. If successful, her favorability with him and the two brothers would rise. If she failed, she would face a bad ending after his death. She was surprised by the existence of mission system, but quickly saw it as an opportunity, as this had been her goal from the start. She was confused by the nature of the rewards, especially the fluctuating feelings of the two brothers, and she was terrified by the penalty for failure, death. Then, an additional, tempting reward appeared, unlimited pocket money provided by Mr. Seo Yui Hyen, which sparked intense excitement in her. She happily realized that if she succeeded in this mission, everything would fall into place as the root of all evil would be gone. However, a sense of anxiety crept in as the mission's appearance at this perfect timing felt like someone was watching and guiding her. She admitted to herself that there were many mysteries she still didn't understand, chief among them being the reason she was transported to this world in the first place. In a desperate attempt, she looked around and shouted, wondering if anyone could see her, as often happens in comic books. But nothing appeared, so she decided to ignore it and focus on completing the mission, hoping to discover the truth afterward, whether by returning to her world or by some other means. Just as she came to terms with this, another extra reward appeared, an answer to every question that piqued her curiosity. She angrily realized that the system had been provoking her all along and was now trying to motivate her with extra rewards. She screamed at the invisible system, sarcastically asking if it thought she couldn't save Mr. Seo Yui Hyen. Elsewhere, Mr. Seo Yui Hyen felt his ears itch, while Dokium stood behind her room door, confused. Ihai, filled with determination, provocatively declared that she would definitely save Mr. Seo Yui Hyen. The next morning, Mr. Seo Yui Hyen was enjoying the fine weather while sipping his tea. His younger son, Yul, joined him excitedly, agreeing that the weather was nice while adding a large amount of sugar to his coffee. Yul commented that spending time with family made everything better, while Dokium quietly sipped his bitter coffee. Dokium wondered to himself why Ihai hadn't come down for breakfast. Dokium remembered the commotion she had made in her room the previous night, but decided not to worry about her. Suddenly, Ihai appeared with a giant toy hammer and began to attack Dokium's father from behind, but he dodged it with ease. The father and both sons were stunned, and Yul shouted in her face, asking if she had gone crazy. Ihai was surprised to see Mr. Seo Yui Hyen dodge her attack, wondering how he did it. Ihai began to train Mr. Seo Yui Hyen's agility, while he begged her to stop. She smiled and told him that this was all for his own good. She whispered to him to think of it as an investment for the future, while her aura became mysterious and frightening. After finishing the training, she announced that she was leaving now. Yul shouted at his father, condemning him for letting her leave after all that, considering she hadn't been in her right mind for days. Ihai reviewed in her mind training case 1, deliberately tripping Mr. Seo Yui Hyen while he was walking to train his reflexes. Mr. Seo Yui Hyen was surprised by her sudden move. Ihai praised his quickness and agility, while Yul watched in shock as his father was tripped. In case 2, she inexplicably called Mr. Seo Yui Hyen to her room door and placed a teddy bear holding a knife in the crack of the door. Startled by the doll, Seo Yui Hyen quickly stepped back. She told him she knew what she was doing was annoying, but she was glad to see she had successfully provoked a reaction from him. In case 3, he felt a strange movement while sitting at the dining table. He bent down to look under the table, only to find her hiding there. He was terrified by her sudden appearance. SEO Yui Hyan explained to his son Yul that Ihai claimed it was all training to improve his reflexes. He advised him to leave her alone, confirming that she would soon get tired and stop on her own. Yul angrily wondered when on earth she would stop. Dokium watched all this silently, while Ihai continued her strange drills outside the mansion. She considered arranging a training session for him at night as well. Suddenly, Dokium approached her, and she asked him why he was here. He confronted her angrily, wondering if she had gone crazy and why she was doing all these strange things to his father. He warned her that while he didn't know what her goal was, she would get hurt if she continued like this. She answered him confidently, asking him not to interfere in her affairs, saying it was the sorrow of a supporting character that he would never understand. She explained to him angrily that supporting characters are always used as fuel for the hero's awakening after they die, asking if he understood the tragedy of being used as a plot device. She then seriously suggested that he should also train with his father, but he refused, saying he wasn't interested. He calmly advised her to take care of herself instead of doing these useless things. He then sarcastically added that she should stop reading those fantasy novels, which shocked her. Dokium left, and a system window appeared, showing that he was worried this poor supporting character would be crushed by his father. Ihai felt insulted, wondering what nonsense he was spouting when it was his father who was on the verge of death, and thought that he shouldn't come thanking her later. After Ihai left, Yul approached his older brother. Yul told Dokium that he didn't believe what Ihai was saying, but her words had sparked his concern. Doubt crept into Yul's mind, and he wondered if their father was truly in danger. But Dokium coolly reassured him, confirming that nothing of the sort would happen. Yul explained that he wasn't questioning his father's strength, but he found it strange that his father was allowing Ihai to run around and spread rumors about a spy so easily. Yul asked his older brother to keep a close eye on Ihai for his sake. Dokium agreed to his younger brother's request, watching her go upstairs before replying that he understood. In another scene, Mr. SEO Yui Hyan was listening to a report from Secretary O. Secretary O stated that the investigation had not revealed any clear signs of a spy within the organization, but he added that the spy might not have started full-scale activities yet or could be working externally to avoid suspicion. Therefore, they planned to strengthen security measures. After the secretary finished his report, a look of frustration appeared on Mr. SEO Yui Hyan's face. He summarized the situation as having no substantial progress and then allowed the secretary to leave. But Secretary O stopped and asked for permission to ask a question. He explained that his question concerned Miss Beck Ihai. He directly asked the boss how much he trusted her, which surprised SEO Yui Hyan. He justified his question by saying that he knew she was the daughter of a close friend of the boss, but he felt that other information was being withheld. He expressed his concern, explaining that while he trusted the boss blindly, he couldn't trust Ihai in the same way, especially since she was the designated fiancée of the eldest son, and the organization had to be cautious with her. SEO Yui Hyan cut him off sternly, confirming that he didn't need his suspicions and personally vouched for the girl's background, then ordered him to leave. Secretary O left the office and found a woman waiting for him. She turned out to be team leader Cha E-ryong. She greeted him and told him she had a report to present to the president. The secretary made way for her, and then Cha E-ryong introduced herself to Mr. SEO Yui Hyan before entering. SEO Yui Hyan was surprised by her early return, as her overseas mission was supposed to end next week. She explained that she had finished her work and returned early. She briefed him on her observations of the internal staff and added that she wanted to see him as soon as possible after hearing some surprising news. She commented that a young and beautiful lady had joined the family. SEO Yui Hyan asked her sharply if she had conducted an investigation into her background. She replied that she hadn't done exactly that, but she was aware of her existence beforehand. She admitted she was surprised to learn that she had moved into the mansion as a fiancée and questioned the appropriateness of the relationship. SEO Yui Hyan cut her off sternly, confirming that it was none of her business. She immediately apologized, but he told her that her return was timely, as he had planned to introduce her to her anyway. He explained to her that Ihai had recently lost her mother and become an orphan, and she must be in great pain. Miss Cha expressed her understanding. Seo Yui Hyan added that he found himself caring for her a great deal, as her situation reminded him of Miss Cha when she was younger. She expressed her understanding and offered to go say hello since she was already there. Mr. Seo Yui Hyan agreed and thanked her. After she left, she stood before his room door with a serious and mysterious expression. The mission confirmation window to protect Seo Yui Hyan appeared. Ihai was searching for Mr. Seo Yui Hyan in the mansion's huge garden, wondering why he wasn't in his usual spot for his evening walk. She felt anxious as it was difficult to find him in this vast place, especially with sunset approaching. Suddenly, someone appeared behind her, and she wondered in fear if it was Mr. Seo Yui Hyan hiding from her. But the person who appeared was not Mr. Seo Yui Hyan, but Secretary O with a terrifying aura, who asked her what she was doing here, sending her into extreme panic. She tried to feign composure, smiling in confusion and claiming she was looking for Mr. Seo Yui Hyan. Secretary O questioned her sharply, asking if she was planning to pull another prank on the president. She strongly denied it, confirming that she wasn't joking but was seriously trying to train Mr. Seo Yui Hyan's agility. Secretary O suddenly cornered her, telling her he would get straight to the point. He warned her in a clear tone of threat that he could dispose of anyone who posed a danger to his family without hesitation. He stepped back, confirming that he believed she understood his meaning, and asked her to keep it in mind. She froze on the spot, terrified, wondering if she was about to be disposed of. Fear of this man consumed her, and she wondered if this was a mission that would require her to risk her life. To succeed, just as she was trembling with fear, Secretary O shot her a sharp and deadly glare. After he left, she sighed in relief, complaining that the damn gang leader had no idea how dangerous the situation was, and that she had almost been scared to death by his assistant. She suddenly remembered there was one important place she hadn't searched: the president's office, a place that could only be entered with permission. Realizing this was no time to hesitate, especially with the lights still on, and considering that life was a real battlefield, she decided to launch a surprise attack. But just as she tried to sneak into the office, she was stopped by the guards, who blocked her from entering. She pleaded with them to let her go in and out quickly. The guards grabbed her, shocked by her outrageous request. Just as she was about to take back her words, she yelled angrily in their faces, saying they had no idea what the situation was. Suddenly, a voice emerged, demanding the guards let her go, and team leader Cha I-ryong appeared. Ihai was surprised by the appearance of this beautiful woman, unable to recall who she was. She was certain that if she had seen her in the game, she would have remembered her for her captivating appearance. She realized this woman's beauty was enough to threaten the position of the original female lead, Eun-sol. Just then, Miss Cha spoke, expressing her curiosity at finally meeting her. She greeted her warmly, while Ihai stammered back in confusion. Miss Cha ordered the guards to leave, explaining that they had something to discuss. She apologized to Ihai for the earlier commotion, explaining that the president's office was off-limits, and complimented her on her beauty. The flattery left Ihai utterly bewildered, and she tried to deny it, but the other woman insisted she was truly beautiful. Desperate to get out of the situation, she claimed she just wanted to ask the old master about tomorrow morning's menu. Miss Cha smiled, commenting that her question was cute, and realized this was what Ihai was concerned about. Miss Cha approached Ihai warmly, telling her they would be seeing each other often from now on, and suggesting she could ask her directly if she had any questions next time. Ihai agreed in her utter confusion. Miss Cha then formally introduced herself, explaining that she was Cha I-ryong, in charge of serving Mr. Seo Yui Hyan. She extended her hand for a handshake, telling her to just call her team leader Cha. Ihai shook her hand, expressing that she looked forward to working with her in the future. Miss Cha responded politely as well, then offered to escort her back to her room and discuss the breakfast menu on the way. Ihai happily agreed, thinking to herself that she still had to continue training Mr. Yui Hyan. The next day, as Miss Cha walked away, Ihai grew curious about this mysterious character with a captivating face, wondering why she was just a minor character in the game. She had a strong premonition that this woman would become a powerful ally in her mission. Later at school, the teacher reminded Ihai that she had been spacing out a lot recently and told her to pay more attention. Ihai silently admitted she couldn't stop daydreaming. She worried about the passage of time, doubting if she truly had the ability to protect Mr. Yui Hyan. From the classroom window, she caught a glimpse of the bodyguards diligently working outside. As she stared out the window anxiously, she was suddenly startled by Secretary O's sharp gaze fixed directly on her. She remembered his warning that he wouldn't hesitate to dispose of any threat to his family. She trembled in fear, realizing the bodyguard's presence was less for protection and more for surveillance. She wondered why the system window remained silent, with no updates on her mission progress. In a fit of frustration, she started punching the air, demanding to know where the system window was and telling it to appear at once. The system window suddenly appeared, informing her that the punk SEO Do Kyum was watching her punch the air with an attack power of 20 points. She turned around to find Do Kyum standing at the end of the hallway. He told her that he had found her to be a ridiculous character from the very beginning. Angered by his mockery, she threatened to actually hit him, reminding him that everything she was doing was to protect his father. Do Kyum sighed in exasperation, reminding her that he had asked her to just stay put. She suddenly blocked his path and grabbed his hand, saying she had an important question. He looked at her coldly and told her to ask. She asked him directly what kind of position Mr. O held in their family. Surprised by her question, she explained that if she wanted to protect his father, she might need Mr. O's help, so she was considering getting on his good side. Do Kyum answered calmly, explaining that he had known Mr. O since he was a child and that his father valued him greatly, because it was Mr. O who had stepped up to help their family during their most difficult times. As she listened, she thought to herself that such deep loyalty made things more complicated. The deeper the trust, the easier it was for a spy to hide. She concluded that this meant the most suspicious person right now was Mr. O and wondered how she could make the SEO family believe this. She gripped his hand tightly, asking him to listen carefully, even if what she said sounded like nonsense. She told him she had been training hard because his father was being watched by many forces and could be in danger at any moment. She assured him that what she was doing wasn't an act, but intuition, and that she was on high alert for the presence of a spy. Ihai sincerely pleaded with him to trust her just one more time, but she immediately realized that such a direct plea might mess things up. She noticed her hand was trembling from intense nervousness and anxiety. Do Kyum calmly replied that he would trust her, which took her completely by surprise. She was so shocked by his response that she couldn't believe her ears. He assured her that he might not believe in intuition, but he would try to trust her this time. Overwhelmed with happiness and deep emotion, she couldn't believe he would actually trust her. He interrupted her moment of joy, telling her there was one thing he had been wanting to say to her for a while. As the students around them whispered, he coldly told her to let go of his hand. Only then did she realize she had been holding his hand the whole time, which made her feel extremely embarrassed, especially when the system window appeared, showing that her bad reputation was increasing. She immediately apologized to him, but the system window showed she had intentionally tightened her grip, making her scream internally with embarrassment. The next morning, she woke up knowing Mr. Yui Hyan had an early schedule and figured the brothers were probably still asleep. She decided to go to school alone to avoid more awkward scenes, recalling what had happened the day before and how she had held Do Kyum's hand in front of the whole school. Because she had been so nervous thinking about saving his father, she decided to stay away from him for at least a few days, hoping her classmates would forget about the incident as she headed to school. While eating breakfast, she noticed the mansion was eerily quiet. She wondered why she hadn't seen the guys from the organization who always greeted her. She felt something was off, and when she looked at the main hall, she found it empty. She had a strange feeling today, and red warning lights began to flash before her eyes. Her vision was filled with red warning windows, preventing her from entering a dangerous area and threatening to punish her. A huge death countdown appeared, specifically targeting her, the side character. Terrified by the sudden sounds and warnings, fear enveloped her, and she wondered if she was about to die. She realized she would die a miserable death before she even had a chance to protect Mr. Yui Hyan. Refusing to accept this fate, she tried to run, deciding to leave this place first. But a mysterious hand grabbed her from behind, and she realized the spy's target had changed to her. She collapsed to the ground, letting out a scream of pure terror. She desperately wondered why this was happening to her when a voice called her name. She looked up to find Do-kyum standing before her, anxiously asking if she was okay. She looked at him in a state of shock, barely managing to say his name. As Do-kyum appeared, all the red warnings vanished, and the system window announced that the kill threat had been canceled and a safe status was confirmed. Ihai silently admitted that her mind had completely frozen in that moment, unable to clearly explain what had happened. Instead of explaining the situation, she burst into tears, overwhelmed by fear and shock. Do-kyum anxiously asked her why she was crying. He sighed, then gently hugged her to calm her down. His appearance was incredibly timely for her. After she had calmed down a bit, he told her to look up. She thanked him for calming her down and asked if he was confused, all while wondering how to explain the complicated situation. He sternly asked what had just happened and the reason for her panic. She tried to evade the question, claiming she was a bit sensitive because she wasn't feeling well and that she hadn't seen anyone. She argued that she screamed because he had startled her by grabbing her from behind, adding that she was naturally timid, but she couldn't tell him the truth. Then an alarm had gone off in her ears, announcing she was about to die. He suggested she rest from school for the day, but she strongly refused, insisting she could go. She enthusiastically asked to go to school together. She was afraid she would actually die if she stayed home alone. Do-kyum agreed to her request and held out his hand to her. He told her they would be late if they kept this up and told her to take his hand. His gesture surprised his younger brother, while she thought it would be better to take a car to school on a day like this. He noticed she was pulling away from him, so he asked her why and told her to stay close. Do-kyum's younger brother, Iseo Yul, saw them and scoffed, wondering if he had fallen for a honey trap set by Ihai. Do-kyum calmly replied that she was sick. This response piqued Yul's interest, and he wondered in surprise if she was really sick. Ihai gave an affirmative reply. Yul suggested that if she was sick, she should rest at home, and that he would also be late if they walked slowly. Then he quickly ran off. After Yul left, they were alone in silence for a moment. Do-kyum asked about her condition, and she told him she was fine except for being a little dizzy. He asked her again if she had something to say, pointing out that she had looked genuinely terrified earlier. Ihai realized he possessed a sharp intellect and keen observation skills. She tried to dodge his question, asking him to just walk with her to the school gate like this. He agreed to her request and told her to tell him later if she had something she wanted to say. She walked beside him, linking her arm with his, surprised at her own actions. A moment ago, she had been thinking of walking alone, and now she was clinging to him. She silently admitted she had no choice. For some reason, being near him made her feel safe. Back home, she collapsed on her bed, exhausted. She had spent the entire day living in fear of sudden death. During gym class, a classmate warned her to dodge a volleyball flying toward her. She realized getting hit by the ball would cause a concussion at the very least. She tried to dodge, but her feet were frozen to the spot. Ihai closed her eyes, bracing for impact, thinking it was all over, but Do-kyum suddenly appeared and caught the ball for her, saving her at the last second. She stood there stunned, wondering how Do-kyum had appeared so quickly. Later, she faced her second sudden death crisis while running up the stairs at school, about to be late. She slipped on the wet stairs and almost fell, but a strong hand grabbed her, stopping her fall and warning her to be more careful. It was Do-kyum who had saved her again, and he scolded her for her carelessness, suggesting she leave earlier if she was going to be so clumsy all the time. Back in her room, she sat on her bed thinking that she was alive thanks to Do-kyum, but she wondered why the warning windows hadn't appeared at school. Could it be that the kill threat only appeared at home? She felt a sharp headache and realized she had to save her own life first, considering whether she should ask Do-kyum to be her bodyguard. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door, and she wondered if it was Do-kyum. She opened the door to find team leader Cha Iri-yong, who apologized for the sudden visit. Ihai asked the reason for her visit, and she replied that she was here on behalf of Mr. Yui Hyan. Ihai welcomed her warmly and invited her in. The moment she stepped inside, Miss Cha's expression twisted into a sinister smile as she thanked her. Instantly, Ihai's vision was once again filled with red warnings. The warnings flooded the space, giving her only 10 seconds to escape or be killed instantly. Miss Cha stood in front of the door, while Ihai stared in horror at the system window, which revealed that Miss Cha was the spy. Miss Cha walked into the room, asking for a moment of her time. Suddenly, Ihai lunged for the door, shoving Miss Cha forcefully, as Ihai realized with shock that team leader Cha was the spy she had been looking for. Ihai screamed as she tried to escape, the death countdown rapidly decreasing. Do-kyum heard her scream and immediately sensed that danger was lurking. He rushed to her room, shouting her name. He arrived at the last second, anxiously asking what had happened. Ihai threw herself into his arms, and at that exact moment, a notification appeared, showing the warning had been lifted. Do-kyum told her to look up. Just then, Miss Cha appeared with a calm smile and greeted Do-kyum. Do-kyum returned the greeting in confusion, still holding the trembling Ihai. Miss Cha noted that Ihai looked strange and asked if something had happened, claiming she was worried when she heard the scream. She anxiously wondered what was wrong with her and if she was okay, while Ihai clutched Do-kyum's shirt in terror. Ihai hesitated, wondering if she should just shout out that Miss Cha was the spy, but she worried it would make the situation worse. Do-kyum noticed her trembling as his gaze met Miss Cha's sharp eyes. Miss Cha expressed her relief at the young master's arrival, then announced she would take her leave. She turned and left. After she waved goodbye, Do-kyum muttered under his breath, wondering if Team Leader Cha was really the spy. Ihai was surprised by his question. He told her that what happened this morning had repeated itself, and asked if she was scared because of Miss Cha's presence. Ihai was confused, not knowing whether to tell him the truth. Like Mr. O, Miss Cha was someone close to the family. She remembered Do-kyum had previously said that Miss Cha had supported their family during their most difficult times and that his father thought highly of her. She worried that if she accused someone everyone valued, she herself would seem suspicious, especially since she was just a guest who had recently arrived. But she remembered his plea for her to trust him and his promise that he would believe her. She remembered him saying he would believe her words, which gave her courage. She gathered her strength and decided to tell him the truth. She told him directly that Team Leader Cha was the spy, confident that Do-kyum would believe her. In another scene, Miss Cha was driving late at night. With a calm expression, she recalled a memory. She was sitting before a shrine with a photo of her late parents, wondering what she would do if she was left all alone. She broke down in tears, refusing to believe their deaths were just an accident. A mysterious man appeared from behind her, asking if she wanted to know the truth, affirming that she was clever. He asked if she wanted to know who killed her parents. He revealed to her that the killer was SEO Yui Hyan, the man she had to take revenge on. After the flashback, Miss Cha received a phone call and answered calmly. She told the caller she was on her way to meet him now. Meanwhile, Yul was returning to the mansion, surprised that the servants were up so late to greet him. He complained that the academic counseling at school took too long, especially since he was transferring to the same school anyway. He caught sight of Ihai running at the top of the stairs and called out to her, wondering why she was so agitated. Do-kyum appeared behind her, and Yul, surprised to see them together, told his older brother he was late because he had a meeting with a teacher. Do-kyum asked Yul about their father and if he had already left for work. Do-kyum told Ihai that Secretary O had called to inform him that their father was in a staff meeting, and Ihai suggested they go directly to the company. Do-kyum tried to calm her down, insisting that Secretary O and other members were with his father. Just then, Secretary O walked in, wondering why they were there. As Ihai reached the bottom of the stairs, she quickly approached Secretary O, asking about Mr. Yui Hyan and if he had left with him. He replied that was the original plan, but an urgent matter came up that needed to be discussed with Team Leader Cha, so the president told him to go ahead as it might take some time. Ihai was shocked, while Do-kyum clearly remembered Miss Cha saying that today's schedule was assigned to another department. A look of confusion crossed Secretary O's face as he tried to explain that it was an urgent and unscheduled matter. Yul anxiously wondered what all the fuss was about, thinking it shouldn't be a problem for his father to meet with Team Leader Cha. But Do-kyum told his younger brother Yul to stay home and eat, which surprised him. He refused to eat amid such a tense situation. Do-kyum turned to Secretary O and demanded they go to the company immediately. Do-kyum then tried to stop Ihai from going, but she refused, saying she didn't want to sit around and wait for disaster. She gripped his hand tightly, insisting she didn't want to stay home and wait. She declared she was going with him, and Yul joined in, demanding to go along. Although the guards tried to stop them, one blocked Do-kyum and told him to wait. Ihai yelled at the guard that there was no time and they had to find Mr. Yui Hyan immediately. Without accurate information, They refused to believe her. At that critical moment, Do-kyum intervened and declared that he believed her. The guards hesitated for a moment, but Do-kyum confirmed his decision and set off with Yi-hai. He grabbed her hand, and they rushed out of the house to find his father. They traveled in a convoy across a city bridge late at night, with Yi-hai reassuring herself that as long as no special system window appeared, Mr. Yui-Hyun was still okay. But the system window suddenly appeared, showing that Do-kyum had noticed her unusual behavior. He anxiously asked if she was worried. She silently admitted she should have gone after Miss Cha immediately after she left, and she was worried something would happen if the situation continued. Do-kyum tried to reassure her that everything would be fine, but Yi-hai couldn't shake her anxiety about what might happen next. The car pulled up to the company building, and they rushed inside, desperately searching for any sign of Mr. Yui-Hyun or Miss Cha. They found the office empty, with no trace of either of them. Do-kyum's expression grew darker as he realized the gravity of the situation. Yi-hai checked her system window frantically, but remained silent, offering no clues about Mr. Yui-Hyun's whereabouts or condition. Do-kyum immediately called Secretary O, demanding to know exactly where his father and Miss Cha had gone. Secretary O's voice was confused and alarmed as he admitted he had no idea where they had disappeared to. Yi-hai realized that Miss Cha had orchestrated this entire situation perfectly, luring Mr. Yui-Hyun away from the safety of the company. Do-kyum turned to Yi-hai with determination in his eyes, asking if she had any idea where Miss Cha might have taken his father. Yi-hai closed her eyes, trying to sense any connection through the system, searching for any hint of danger or location. Suddenly, a new system window appeared, displaying coordinates and a warning that time was running out to save Mr. Yui-Hyun's life. She grabbed Do-kyum's arm urgently, telling him they needed to go to the warehouse district immediately. They raced through the city streets, with Yi-hai praying that they would arrive in time to prevent whatever Miss Cha had planned. When they finally reached the old warehouse, an eerie silence greeted them, and Yi-hai's heart pounded with dread. They cautiously entered the dark building, calling out for Mr. Yui-Hyun, but hearing only the echo of their own voices. Then, a faint sound came from deeper inside the warehouse, and Do-kyum rushed toward it without hesitation. Yi-hai followed close behind, her eyes adjusting to the darkness as they descended further into the building. They found Mr. Yui-Hyun tied to a chair, with Miss Cha standing before him, a gun in her trembling hand. Miss Cha's face was twisted with rage and anguish as she confronted her father's alleged killer, demanding answers about her parents' deaths. Mr. Yui-Hyun's expression was grave, but calm as he gazed at the young woman before him, recognizing the pain in her eyes. Do-kyum shouted for Miss Cha to stop, but she remained focused on her mission of revenge, her finger tightening on the trigger. Yi-hai desperately searched her system window for any solution, any way to prevent this tragedy from unfolding before their eyes. In that critical moment, she realized that protecting the male lead meant saving not just his life, but also preventing him from becoming a killer himself. She stepped forward, her voice steady as she spoke directly to Miss Cha about the truth of her parents' deaths. The shocking revelation that Miss Cha had been deceived by the true culprit made her hesitate, and the gun wavered in her hand. Do-kyum seized that moment of doubt and rushed forward, disarming Miss Cha and preventing the tragedy from occurring. As Miss Cha collapsed in tears, the truth finally emerged, and justice began its course through proper means rather than vengeance. Yi-hai finally felt the weight lift from her shoulders as the immediate danger passed, knowing that her mission to protect Mr. Yui-Hyun continued. He emphasized that even if the decision was to fire him immediately, he would accept the verdict. He and his subordinates bowed deeply, sincerely apologized, and admitted they had no excuses. But Mr. Iam rejected their apology, insisting that the responsibility for this incident was his. He remembered giving Miss Cha a chance, and how she had dropped the bloodstained knife. Miss Cha sighed, wondering if he knew something, and added that people always have regrets due to emotional attachments. He admitted that the time she spent with him had become poison for her, and that she was sure he was the one who killed her parents. But she now realized the truth and offered that he could find her and kill her if he wished. She told him through her tears to do as he pleased. The scene returns to the present, where Iam mutters to himself that he will not hold her responsible for what happened today. However, he warns her that leaving the organization using shame as an excuse is a greater sin. He ordered his subordinates to prevent any infighting and to conduct personal safety checks on all members to ensure what happened would not be repeated. Then, he ordered them to track Miss Cha's movements, but not to engage her, and to notify him immediately upon finding her. Lastly, he stressed the need for extra care in protecting his children, and Ehai and his subordinates agreed. The next day, Mr. O bowed before Ehai and apologized sincerely. He confessed his misjudgment, having suspected her of being a spy all along, and asked for her forgiveness. Ehai was surprised by his apology and tried to calm him down, assuring him it was okay, that anyone would have made the same mistake, and asked him to raise his head. She then realized that the reason for his previous intimidating behavior towards her was to protect Mr. Iam, and she was glad they had been on the same side all along. He asked if she truly forgave him, and Ehai was surprised by the drastic change in how he treated her. Ehai kindly expressed her understanding of Secretary O's position, emphasizing that she wasn't angry with him, but rather grateful for their shared desire to protect Mr. Iam. She praised Secretary O's role, noting that his timely intervention had saved Iam before it was too late. Ehai, deeply relieved, felt there was no reason to be angry, and instead expressed deep gratitude for the dedication of Secretary O and the SEO family in protecting her. Secretary O, moved by her kind words, promised in an atmosphere of friendliness and mutual appreciation that he would never doubt her intentions again. Yul expressed relief that the crisis was over and everything was back to normal, while Ehai watched him with a hint of a hidden smile, reflecting her happiness at this turn of events. Secretary O was curious about what Yul had said recently. Yul repeated his clear confession that he was very happy his father had survived. Although his expression tried to remain stern, Yul admitted his gratitude towards Ehai, explaining that it didn't mean he fully accepted her presence, but he couldn't help but be thankful for what she had done for his father. Ehai was shocked by this sudden and positive change in attitude from Yul, who had always been hostile towards her. Ehai teased Yul for being a cute boy, which made Yul blush as he denied, crying out of relief, while Ehai continued to tease him, telling him to call her big sister. Do-kyun watched these gentle squabbles in silence, while Ehai noted his calmness, pondering the complexity of his character and his unpredictable reactions. Later, in her quiet room, Ehai lay in bed, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Her mission was a complete success, ensuring a long and safe life for Mr. Iam. She internally celebrated her ability to change key events in the story and felt the gratitude pouring in from all sides of the SEO family. Some questions troubled her. Did this success pave the way for her imminent return to the real world? A pang of sadness hit her at the thought of leaving this life of luxury and abundance she had grown accustomed to. However, she keenly realized that not for a moment had she felt lonely since stepping into this new world. She suddenly sat up in bed and summoned the system window, determined to find satisfactory answers to the many mysteries surrounding her existence. The window responded to her call, revealing shocking new information about Cha E-ryong's true identity. Ehai initially wondered what was the use of knowing these details now that things had settled down, but curiosity got the better of her, and she began to read. She was shocked to learn that Miss Cha was a field leader of the White Tiger Gang, Baekhyun Gang, and worse, Ehai's personal data had been fully exposed to the gang's boss. The name White Tiger Gang confused her, as she didn't remember hearing it in the original game, which made her realize the rules of the world she was living in had changed. The system explained that her situation before the second-rate gang boss had become sensitive, and despite some anxiety, she comforted herself that Mr. Iam's survival would protect her from a tragic fate. Ehai concluded that given the tight security she now enjoyed, the possibility of being directly targeted was almost non-existent. The system window suddenly disappeared without answering her remaining pressing questions, leaving her with a flash of anger, calling it an unstable window. She took a deep breath and decided to sleep. She was determined to enjoy the peace she had earned after a long hardship. But a sudden knock on the door interrupted her thoughts, and Do-kyun entered, asking in a calm tone if she was still awake. Do-kyun walked into the room holding a pillow and a blanket. She, utterly shocked, asked him what he intended to do at this hour. Do-kyun made himself comfortable on the floor and coolly announced that he was going to sleep in her room. His words hit her like a thunderbolt when he confirmed that he would be sleeping right next to her for for her protection. Ihai, blushing with shame and confusion, loudly condemned this bold and unexpected situation. Dokyun argued that if she hadn't screamed during the previous incident, he might not have been able to save her in time, so he had decided to provide close-range protection all night to ensure her safety. Ihai erupted in anger, calling him a mischievous son and indignantly asking why he was guarding her when it was his father who was injured. But he replied coolly and firmly that his father would surely understand the necessity of this measure. She confronted him by leaning over him with her arms braced, reminding him of the obvious fact that she was a woman and he was a man, asking if he was aware of that. He calmly replied that he knew, then turned his back to her, warning her not to worry and that if she tried to make any suspicious moves, he would take care of her in the blink of an eye. As he told her to go to sleep, she sat resentfully on her bed, cursing him as a lunatic in her mind. In a fit of anger, she turned off the lights, convincing herself there was no reason to prevent them from sharing a room, and declaring she didn't care if he slept well or not. Lying in bed, wide awake, she grumbled about his so-called protection, as he was just a gangster after all. She admitted to herself that even though this was just a game world, and she was just a possessed character, she now saw him as a real, living man, which made the situation more complicated. He called her name softly, and she answered irritably. He then asked how she knew Miss Cha was a spy. She was surprised by his question. He clarified that he hadn't suspected her at all before. He recalled a past scene where his father had let a little girl named Iri-Yong live in one of their separate houses, so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable. At that moment, Dokyun, still a small child, excitedly called out to his father. His father held him as the child asked about the identity of that older sister, so he told him it was Cha Iri-Yong and that she had now become part of their family. Little Dokyun greeted her, and she responded hesitantly and confused. Back in reality, Dokyun explained that Team Leader Cha had been with their family for a long time and was close to them. Ihai realized that the ones most affected by this incident were his father and the entire family. He suddenly asked Ihai how she knew Miss Cha was a spy, and she froze for a moment before cleverly claiming to have very sharp intuition. She continued to make up excuses, explaining that she had felt something strange since the morning that kept her on alert, which was how she was able to uncover the truth about Team Leader Cha. He sarcastically suggested she should join the organization at this rate, but she flatly refused his request. Immediately after, she turned the question back on him, wanting to know why he was so interested in her and whether this treatment was too exaggerated for just a guest. He replied with a serious expression that she was not an ordinary guest at all, but a demanding and troublesome one. He sighed and added that he was glad she knew that, which annoyed her because she couldn't refute his words. She thought to herself that SEO Dokyun definitely had a soft spot for rookie gangsters, and that a gangster with such tenderness was rare, possibly limited to him. He continued to wonder why he was so deeply interested in her, while he also pondered in silence, admitting it was a valid question and questioning the real reason driving him to do all this. Just as she was about to fall asleep, she began to fall into a dark nightmare. She found herself as a little girl locked in a dark place. It was hot and stuffy, and an intense fear enveloped her. She began to plead desperately, asking for anyone to get her out of this terrible place. She suddenly woke up, gasping for air, realizing what had just happened was only a dream. She wondered if these dreams were haunting her due to the trauma from the Cha Iri-Yong incident, especially since those memories had started to fade long ago. As she thought about how terrifying the situation was at that time, she turned over, only to be startled by his presence. She was shocked and terrified when she found him sleeping peacefully on the floor next to her bed, wondering in horror why he was here. She woke up to find herself on the floor beside the bed, confusedly realizing she must have rolled off the bed during her nightmare. She looked at him sleeping soundly, wondering if it was appropriate for someone in charge of guarding her all night to be sleeping so deeply. She continued to watch him, thinking how innocent and calm he looked, not at all like a rookie gangster, to the point where she imagined he wouldn't even notice if someone tried to kidnap her. Remembering that he was actually kind-hearted, she wondered if he could now grow up normally since the reason that drove him into the world of crime had disappeared. The thought occurred to her that maybe he could now have a normal romance with the original female lead of the story and have a happy ending. She continued to think that this female lead would be Yun Sol. At that time, Mr. Iam was reading the newspaper when Secretary O told him that Dokyun and Ihai had spent the night in the same room. The secretary explained that he had gone to check because Dokyun was not in his room. This news shocked Yul, who was having breakfast. Mr. Iam handled the matter calmly, thinking that as long as they were going to get engaged anyway, there was no problem, and then asked the secretary to call his son to the office. This shocked Yul. Yul angrily questioned his father if he was still seriously considering the engagement, protesting that Ihai had only been here for 2 months. His father calmly reprimanded him, stressing there was no reason to raise his voice and that as long as Dokyun and Ihai agreed, it could happen anytime. Yul erupted in anger, asking why his opinion wasn't also considered. His father explained that the opinions of the parties involved were what mattered most, and Yul was overcome with a sense of jealousy, thinking his father had been putting Ihai first ever since she arrived. Although he admitted she had done them a great favor, he couldn't hide his strong resentment at the thought of his father listening to her opinion before his. He decided to leave the dining table, claiming he didn't feel well and would eat later. Mr. Iam wondered if he had said something wrong, so the secretary explained that the second young master must be worried about his older brother's marriage. Mr. Iam expressed understanding, but decided he needed to retrain Dokyun on the rules of etiquette, for while Ihai's innocence was understandable, his son should not have acted like her. The secretary pointed out that the credit for improving the atmosphere of the mansion belonged to Ihai, and that even after the Miss Cha incident, the place was no longer gloomy. Mr. Iam agreed and ordered him to make the necessary arrangements. Meanwhile, Mr. Iam was thinking that she was like a little lucky charm to them. As the days went by, life returned to normal faster than expected after the Miss Cha incident. Naturally, security became stricter, and she gained a kind of respect among the organization's members for saving the boss. With her intuition, as the summer vacation ended, she noticed Dokyun began to take care of her more obviously. When she held his hand and asked why he was holding it, he coolly reminded her that she was the one who initiated holding his hand first. As for Yul, he no longer got into childish arguments with her. When she teased him about going to study during the vacation, he irritably told her to mind her own business. She realized he hadn't fully opened up to her yet, and although her words were a joke, she decided she should be the considerate one in this relationship. She noticed the system window started updating information about the White Tiger Gang, but she comforted herself that as long as there was no new news, things would be fine. One day, she was tutoring Dokyun, telling him to concentrate and review all the mistakes he had made. She reminded him that it was his father who asked her to do this, so he had to work hard. She was satisfied that her past experience as a private tutor was beginning to bear fruit. The thought occurred to her that if she could get him to focus on his studies, maybe he could think of a future outside the gangster world. As the sound of cicadas filled the air, she commented that summer was at its peak and the weather had become very hot recently. Dokyun suggested turning up the air conditioner's cooling power, but she replied with a bright smile that the room temperature was perfectly fine. She commented on how spacious and cool the place was, and while enjoying that atmosphere, she admitted that in the past, she hated and deeply feared the summer season. Her confession piqued Dokyun's curiosity, and he asked her the reason for her fear. At first, she tried to avoid answering, explaining it was just a childhood story and she was fine now, but he insisted on knowing more. She hesitated for a moment, thinking the story belonged to her real world, but finally decided to share it with him, justifying it in her mind that since no one else in this world knew her, it wouldn't hurt to tell him. She revealed to him that she was kidnapped at a very young age, and the kidnapper locked her in a narrow closet in the middle of summer. She described to him how suffocating and humid the place became due to the intense heat and confinement, and how the difficulty in breathing in that dark place made her feel a real fear that she might die. She ended the story with a forced laugh, explaining that the moment was so terrifying that it became the only scene that came to mind when thinking of summer, and she had forgotten everything else. But her conversation was cut short as she noticed his strange reaction. He seemed deeply affected and began to gasp for air with difficulty, clutching his chest in pain, and called her name. She was startled by his sudden state and told him to look at her and calm down, wondering what was happening to him and seeking help. He told her between gasps that he was deeply moved by her story, which made her wonder in confusion if she had put too much emotion into her storytelling. She considered calling Mr. O for help, but he stopped her, asking her to stay by his side and reminding her of what he had done for her in a similar situation. She immediately remembered that moment. She remembered how he had held her and comforted her without asking any questions when she had a panic attack. Realizing what she had to do, she gently hugged him, thinking it wasn't difficult at all to do something like this after a while. After a moment, he fell fast asleep with his head on her lap. She asked him if he was feeling better. She was surprised by his ability to relax and fall asleep so quickly when he was on the verge of death just a moment ago. But she started to feel her leg go numb. Suddenly, he called her name in his sleep and muttered angry words, wondering if he should find that bastard. She was surprised by his words, wondering who he was referring to. Was it the kidnapper who locked her up? She calmly explained to him that the kidnapper was caught a long time ago and no longer existed in this world. But he continued to talk nonsense in his dream, insisting that if it were him, he would have killed him long ago, which made her realize with a shock that he spoke very violently. She then realized that he was getting angry for her after hearing her painful story. She looked at him, thinking this is what it feels like to open up to another person. The moment was interrupted by Yul, who suddenly burst in, accusing her of trying to do something to his sleeping brother, but she calmly denied it. Yul insisted on his accusation, describing what she was doing as a honey trap to seduce his innocent brother, but their commotion woke the sleeping Dokyeon. Mr. Iam noticed how close the two young people were and suggested to Mr. O that everyone go to the beach the next day. The secretary immediately agreed and confirmed that the necessary preparations would be made later. Later, as Yul was thinking about having ramen for dinner, Ihai suddenly appeared and asked if he was looking for ramen. Yul found Ihai in the kitchen, standing in front of the stove, and asked what she was doing. She sarcastically replied if he couldn't see what she was doing. She proudly announced that today she would become a skilled ramen chef. Yul scoffed at her words, doubting her ability to make anything delicious. She ignored his comment, telling him that if he didn't want to eat anything, she would finish quickly and start packing. Her mention of packing piqued his curiosity, and he asked about her destination. She revealed a plan he didn't know about. Tomorrow they were all going to the beach, including his father, him, her, and even Mr. O. The news shocked him, and he angrily and indignantly asked why he had to hear this from her first. She calmly explained to him that the reason was his angry departure earlier, which made him miss the chance to talk to his father. But he refused to believe her, directly accusing her of asking his father to go to the beach. She continued to provoke him, wondering if he hated the idea so much just because she had proposed it, and then sarcastically challenged him to do something about it. He yelled at her to stop joking. He roughly grabbed her shoulders and shook her, asking if she was doing it on purpose. He continued to shake her, demanding a quick and honest answer, refusing to believe that such a family trip was planned without his knowledge. She told him to stop shaking her, stressing that she didn't have the authority to make such a decision alone. He justified his outburst by saying that his father had been more interested in her than in him since she came to the house. During this argument, as he was distracted, her hand slipped from the handle of the hot pot, and she screamed in pain. The boiling water splashed out of the pot, and in an instinctive reaction, she pushed him away, causing all the hot water to splash on her own back. She collapsed on the floor, screaming in pain, with the burn marks clearly visible on her back. Yul looked at her burned back in horror, hesitantly calling her name, then shouting her name loudly. At that moment, a red system window appeared before her, announcing that she had successfully completed a hidden mission, preventing SEO Yul's death. Elsewhere in the mansion, Dokyeon was looking for her, wondering about her whereabouts while thinking about how he had rented out an entire department store for her. A faint cry led him to the scene of the accident, only to find his younger brother Yul collapsed on the floor, crying in agony. He rushed to him in concern, asking what had happened. Yul called him in a trembling voice. Yul, trembling, explained that he had accidentally spilled boiling water and Ihai had protected him with her body. He added that he had already applied an ice pack to her back as first aid. Dokyeon took charge, ordering Yul in a firm tone to call for people, announcing that they were going to the hospital immediately. Yul immediately agreed, while Ihai was trying to suppress her cries. As Yul hurried off to carry out the order, Ihai noticed Yul's pained expression and told him not to cry. Dokyeon sat by her side, gently holding her, telling her not to move and to lean on his shoulder. Then he asked her in an angry and pained tone why she did that. She answered through the pain that she didn't think at all. Her body just moved on its own because he was his brother. Sobs overwhelmed her, and he watched her in silence. Another system window appeared, announcing that the little gangster SEO Dokyeon was deeply shaken. As she tried to hold back her tears from crying, he noticed she was biting her lip hard. So he warned her she would hurt herself and suggested she bite his finger instead if it hurt too much. She was stunned by his request, thinking he was completely crazy and that he was treating her like a child. She gently bit his finger, still feeling that his reaction was over the top and overly gentle. Secretary O rushed in, calling her name, and told his subordinates to move her to the chairman's car and provide immediate help. During the move, Do-kyun whispered in her ear that she was enduring it well, which made her think that if the situation continued like this, she might get used to this kindness. In the mansion, Mr. O stood by a shocked and seated Yul, calling him softly. Young Master Yul tried to pull himself together, telling the secretary not to worry about him and to go check on Ihai. Secretary O assured him that she had already gone to the hospital with the chairman, so there was no need to worry. He added that the chairman had asked him to stay by Yul's side to comfort him. Yul wondered why his father was concerned about him and stammered as he called the secretary uncle. The secretary replied with a relieved smile and assured him that she would be perfectly fine. Yul burst into tears, angrily wondering why she had protected him when he was just taking out his frustrations on her because he felt his father cared more about her than him. The secretary placed a hand on his shoulder to comfort him, wondering if he had gone mad. Yul continued to cry in agony, thinking it would have been better if he had been the one to get scarred, but it was she who took the damage. Yul thought she must feel devastated now. In the hospital, Ihai woke up to find herself in a comfortable bed. She realized she was in the hospital, the treatment was very quick, and she felt no pain. She was impressed by the luxury of the private room, commenting that even these difficult moments seemed opulent. But she felt a weight on her right hand. She looked over and found Do-kyun sitting by her bed, his head resting on the bed, holding her hand. She called his name softly. He looked up and asked if she was awake. She asked if he had been here all this time. He told her that she had just woken him up, so she felt sorry because he didn't have to stay. Nevertheless, she noted that he was guarding her side as naturally as ever. He told her that the emergency treatment was complete and she would have to stay in the hospital for a while. But he apologized because the doctor told him a small scar might remain. She was surprised by his apology, stressing that the decision was hers. But she admitted it bothered her a little because someone she might fall in love with later might find the scar disgusting. He cut her off angrily, telling her not to date someone who thinks like that, and that he himself would oppose it. She was stunned by his words and sarcastically asked if she needed his permission to find a boyfriend now. He replied very seriously, of course, which made her laugh and ask if he was her dad, commenting that he was acting like a real older brother. A system window appeared, stating that the little gangster SEO Do-kyun was satisfied with the supporting character Beck, Ihai's reaction, so she sarcastically asked if he was satisfied now. Suddenly, she noticed another window behind the notification, wondering what it was, as there was an unread notification. She tried to reach it, claiming her arm was stiff from lying down for so long. Once she managed to touch the notification, a new window appeared, revealing shocking information. The little gangster SEO Do-kyun was feeling nauseous, a feeling that had accumulated 7 to 10 times, and warned not to let this nausea persist for too long. She was stunned by the strange and unexpected notification. Ihai remembered seeing a similar notification while shopping, when the system mentioned that Do-kyun had felt nauseous 17 times upon seeing her. She wondered angrily if he felt nauseous every time he saw her. She noted that the nausea didn't seem negative or carry any hostility, although the idea of him loving her seemed very slim. Do-kyun interrupted her thoughts, informing her that she was to stay in the hospital for now and that he would visit her often. She excitedly asked him about the seaside trip, but he rebuked her for the thought in her condition. She protested his stern decision, insisting she no longer felt any pain and could go out. But he remained silent. He gently covered her mouth, telling her to listen and stay calm, adding that the beach wasn't going anywhere. She tried to argue, but he stopped her from speaking and asked her not to make strange noises. Ihai wondered angrily why he would cover someone's mouth like that. Their argument was interrupted by a knock on the door, and Mr. Yahayan walked in, asking if Ihai was awake. Ihai warmly welcomed Mr. Yahayan and invited him in. Mr. Yahayan apologized to her, admitting he had heard everything just now and was very shocked. He assured her that he was the one who should be apologizing and comforted her by saying they had assigned the best medical team to care for her, so there was no need to worry about scarring. Her smile surprised him. She explained that she was grateful for everything and felt like an honorary member of the family. Suddenly, Dokyun grabbed her, sending her into a panic. He grabbed her arm and pulled her towards him while she screamed. Mr. Yahayan wondered in confusion what had just happened. Dokyun calmly explained that what he did was just a form of restraint. His strange explanation surprised Ihai, and just then, a series of warnings appeared in the system window, announcing that Dokyun's abnormal state had been activated and his possessiveness and obsession had increased. Mr. Yahayan chuckled softly. Dokyun seriously explained that he wanted to protect her to this extent, especially since she had saved his younger brother, and that he would take special care of her. She was terrified, mentally pleading for someone to save her. Mr. Yahayan was curious about the sudden declaration, wondering if it meant they were going to have an engagement ceremony immediately. Shock instantly took over her heart, and she head-butted him in the face. She tried to break free from him while protesting the idea of restraint. She asked Mr. Yahayan to let her rest for a while. He kindly agreed and decided to step aside, while Dokyun watched her silently. A few days later, Ihai was enjoying her time in the hospital, savoring the desserts that were sent to her. She found that the quiet and comfortable life in the hospital was the best. Although life in the mansion was luxurious, life in the hospital was quieter and everything was brought to her without any effort. She wished she could live like this forever, but she recently noticed that she was getting used to being cared for and receiving attention. This was something she had never imagined in her real world. Ihai recalled some fragmented images, from Mr. Yahayan's worried gaze to Dokyun's care for her, and she sadly realized that these people could never become her real family. But she quickly retracted the thought, reminding herself not to cross the line just because she felt comfortable with them. Her thoughts were interrupted by Dokyun, who arrived early and entered her room carrying some bags. He invited her to eat outside. They sat together in the hospital garden, and she was impressed by the delicious food he had brought. She offered to share the food with him, but he politely declined, explaining that he doesn't eat spicy food. She thanked him for the water. He called her name. She asked him what he wanted while she ate. He told her that Yul was very sorry for what had happened. She was surprised by the news and admitted she was a little sad that he hadn't come to visit, but she expressed her understanding considering his personality. Dokyun checked his phone and saw a message from Yul saying he would come tomorrow, but he didn't actually come. In fact, Yul had already walked to her door, but he hesitated and decided to leave quietly while she was eating with his brother. He admitted to himself that he didn't have the courage to face her yet and that he would apologize to her later. But he was startled by her sudden appearance behind him. She asked him about his brother's whereabouts. She told him that his brother had left after seeing her eating, which confused him greatly. She was amazed by the famous cake he brought and asked if he had bought it. She teased him, saying she hadn't expected him to come at all and wondered if his visit was a surprise. He tried to evade the situation, claiming he was just passing by. She expressed her joy at his arrival, which made him very shy. Earlier, Secretary O was comforting Yul, assuring him that the world is indeed cruel, but no one deserves to die or be harmed. He explained to him that emotions sometimes precede logic, and that's what happens when one tries to save a loved one. He added that Ihai herself carries the pain of losing her family, which is why she seemed to open her heart to this family first. Yul admitted that he found her strange at first, but now he was grateful to her. The secretary asked if Yul felt the same way. Yul wondered how long they had known each other for her to sacrifice herself for him. The secretary explained that this was precisely the charm of such a special bond. Then he told him that his father had also said something. He relayed his father's words, who called him his beloved son, and assured him that they would go to the ocean he loves together next year. Back at the hospital, Yul knelt before Ihai and apologized sincerely. He explained to her that because of what he did, she would have a scar for the rest of her life, and he felt deeply sorry. She tried to soothe him, stressing that the treatment went well and the scar wouldn't be very noticeable, and asked him to lift his head. But Yul thanked her for opening her heart to him, despite all the reasons she had not to. Yul cried as he thanked Ihai for her concern. Ihai hugged him warmly, telling him not to cry, because he had only done what he had to do. Suddenly, another system window appeared, announcing that she had completed a new hidden quest: win SEO Yul's favor and make him her strongest ally. She was surprised by this sudden quest, wondering if her protection of Yul had triggered it, as she had thought there were no more quests. Later, she felt grateful to the SEO family, thinking that Yul had finally opened his heart to her. In a great mood, she took a selfie and sent it to the group chat, telling them she was on the hospital rooftop. She quickly received a reply from Dokyun, who scolded her for going out at night, saying it was too dangerous, and asked if anyone was with her. He continued to send warning messages, which scared her, but she assured him she wasn't alone and told him to wait. She remembered the security guards insisting on stopping her from going out and how she had pleaded with them for just 10 minutes, wondering if the hospital rooftop was really that dangerous. She received another message from Yul, who apologized for not being able to come, but promised to chat with her often. She thought he seemed very kind. As she enjoyed the fresh air, she wondered if these quests would continue to appear. If so, she had to make a plan. Suddenly, her hair tie fell to the ground. A strange young man suddenly called out to her. She turned her head, and he smiled, telling her that her hair tie had fallen. She thanked him profusely, and he asked if she was also a patient at the hospital. She gave an affirmative answer, and he commented that he thought so, as he had seen her in the rooftop garden before. He invited her to sit down and asked for her name. She introduced herself as Becky Hai, and he introduced himself as Kim Chong-soo. She found herself introducing herself to him without thinking and admired his outgoing personality. She thought he was a handsome and ideal young man. He apologized for possibly scaring her, explaining that not many friends or relatives visited him, so he was happy to see someone his age. She reassured him that it was okay and felt sympathy for him, realizing she knew the feeling of loneliness all too well. Their conversation was interrupted by a security guard who told her that her time was up. She apologized to Chong-soo, saying she had to go. She smiled and said goodbye to him, confirming that she would be staying in the hospital for a while longer, and suggested that if they met on the rooftop again, they could chat more out of solidarity between supporting characters. He waved goodbye enthusiastically. After she left, his expression completely changed. Suddenly, he took off his glasses and wig, thinking to himself that he would wait for her here. In another scene, Chong-soo was sitting and talking on the phone with another person, who asked if he had met the kid. He replied that he had, and that she was even cuter in person. Chong-soo wondered if they really had to put on this act with a kid like her, and the other person replied that it would only stop if he wanted to back out. The other person explained that the chief wanted to create an interesting relationship between the Yahaian faction and them. Chong-soo confirmed this during the call. Chong-soo looked at a file containing Ihai's information, pondering the need to identify her weaknesses to exploit them later. He ordered the person on the phone to prepare the next step as planned. Miss Cha, on the other end of the line, asked if he intended to proceed with his plan. He retorted, asking if there was a problem. Miss Cha warned him that if he laid a single finger on that girl, it would cause utter chaos. She admitted that his plan might succeed in attracting SEO Yahaian's attention, but the price could be high. She explained that for this matter alone, Yahaian might personally hunt him down. But Chong-soo laughed, thinking that would be interesting in itself. Miss Cha coldly ended the call, while Chong-soo claimed he was just joking with her. In the hospital garden, Ihai sat alone, holding a tarot card. She remembered suggesting to Chong-soo the previous night that they do a reading with these cards, which her brother had bought for her, but had never used. Chong-soo had enthusiastically agreed and began to quickly read the instructions. As he read, she thought to herself that she had planned to just go with the flow until she could live independently, but something still bothered her. She realized that the appearance of a new quest meant that saving Mr. Yahaian was just the beginning. She recalled Dokyun's exaggerated reaction and realized that the effects of the abnormal state might not be temporary. She wondered if she was being overly sensitive, but she remembered that the level quest was hidden. Her thoughts were interrupted by Chong-soo, who asked her to draw a card. She drew a card showing 3 wolves surrounding a dog, and she was confused about its meaning. Chong-soo interpreted it for her, saying that the card showed there were people around her who wouldn't let her go, and whether their embrace was warm or not depended on her. Thinking of the SEO family, she felt a shiver, realizing the tarot card was frighteningly accurate. Suddenly, Yul appeared behind her, asking about the accurate thing she was talking about. He was surprised and scoffed at her for always wandering around instead of staying in her room. She teased him, asking if he was worried about her. His face turned red with anger, and he asked if she was treating him like a child. He continued to shout that he was taller than her. His words were interrupted by the appearance of Dokyun. Yeol shouted for his brother, while Dokyun scolded him for patting an adult man's shoulder like that. Ihai tried to de-escalate the situation, claiming it was just a game between them. Dokyun looked at her again with that sharp gaze. He ordered her to focus on preparing for her discharge tomorrow, pack her bags, and go straight home. Without pausing, he explained that his father's company's shareholder meeting was tomorrow, and he and his brother had to attend starting in the morning. He then asked her to go to the company with the employees, which shocked her into wondering if this was some kind of daughter-in-law-to-be training. He ordered her to wait for them in the lounge, and then they would go home together. But she tried to refuse, saying she would go back on her own. He pinched her chin and reminded her that he was the one who had put a shackle on her. Another system window appeared, announcing that the obsession level of the minor gangster SEO Dokyun was high. Ihai angrily shouted in Dokyun's face, protesting and insisting that the shackle should be on someone like him. On her last night in the hospital, she lay in bed thinking about finally getting out tomorrow. She felt regretful because she hadn't been able to say goodbye to Chang-Soo. She had looked for him that day, but couldn't find him. She decided to at least say a brief hello tomorrow morning. She felt he was a lonely person in this world, a feeling she knew well. As she was falling asleep, an emergency system window appeared before her, announcing the activation of a new main quest. Unmask Kim Chang-Soo and discover his true identity before dawn. The reward for success was gaining SEO Yahayan's absolute trust and a peaceful life, while failure meant activating hard mode. Another window warned her that hard mode could lead to direct death, and that the window would be automatically deleted in 3 seconds. The next morning, she had already packed her bags and was waiting for an employee to pick her up. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, noticing the burn on her back looked like angel wings, and thought that if anyone asked, she could claim it was a tattoo. An employee came to pick her up, and she asked him to wait a moment. She opened the door to greet him with a good morning, but was startled by the silence. The man, whose face was unfamiliar to her, told her he needed to pack her luggage. She agreed and invited him in. She suddenly remembered she had a request and asked if she could see someone. She explained to him that he could accompany her if he was worried, and told him the person's name was Kim Chang-Soo. He agreed to her request, but the moment he agreed, she was struck hard on the neck and lost consciousness. He caught her and apologized, admitting he hadn't meant to be so cruel. He whispered to her that she would rest soon and that he hoped she had taken the supplement that Team Leader Cha had prescribed for her. An hour earlier, Miss Cha had suddenly appeared and apologized for using force on her, explaining that the drug's effect was delayed. She added that she had to make sure she wouldn't run away and confirmed with him that she wasn't injured. As Ihai lost consciousness, she heard Miss Cha's faint voice and realized her true identity. Chang-Soo asked about the guards outside, and she told him she had temporarily drugged them. She explained that there was one guard in the warehouse and one in the bathroom, but they were few in number and inexperienced, so they were easy to deal with. She added that her discharge procedures had been processed normally, so it didn't attract the staff's attention. Most importantly, SEO Yahayan was currently busy with the company's shareholder meeting. It would be a while before he realized Beck Ihai had been kidnapped. Ihai felt her body wouldn't obey her, and everything was strange. She felt her eyelids grow heavy. Chang-Soo whispered to her to sleep well and that they would go somewhere a little farther away together. She woke up to find herself locked in a dark, suffocating place. She wondered if she was trapped again, thinking she had never expected this to happen to her again. She wavered between tears and fear, guessing the identity of the people outside. Ihai fantasized about Dokyun coming to save her, feeling that he would be here. She reached out to him for help, desperately calling his name. But the scene suddenly changed, and she woke up from the dream to find herself sitting in a moving car. Chang-Soo told her she was awake and that he hadn't woken her up on purpose because she was sleeping so soundly. She was surprised, and when she looked beside her, she recognized Miss Cha and realized the faint voice she had heard was indeed hers. She tried to escape quickly, but Miss Cha grabbed and stopped her, wondering where she was going. Chang-Soo intervened, suggesting that Miss Cha be a little gentler with her this time. Ihai asked in confusion about his identity. He sarcastically asked if she had already forgotten him and reminded her of the memory they created together when he picked up her hair tie. He put on his glasses and smiled. When she realized he was Mr. Chang-Soo, she screamed in shock. Miss Cha asked if he was going to put on this childish performance again, which revealed to her that he was the chief. At that moment, a system window appeared, showing that her personal information had been exposed to the chief of the Baekhyang family, the second most powerful faction. She confronted him directly, wondering if he was Baekhyang, and he smiled and replied, "Well done." She shouted in their faces, demanding they let her go, and started kicking the car seat violently. She wondered angrily what kidnapping someone like her could change. She had already suffered so much in this body. Chang-Su grabbed her to try and calm her down, reminding her that the car seat was expensive. She yelled in his face that it was none of her business. Miss Cha commented that her reaction was unexpected, as she had thought she would cry as soon as she woke up. Ihai angrily replied to her, wondering if crying could change anything, and that she had already almost killed her. Miss Cha was surprised by her statement, asking if she had noticed the danger early on and expressed her disappointment. She then asked her why, despite having such intuition, she was still deceived by Chang-Su. She answered in her heart that she had felt a sense of kinship with him. She warned them not to think she was the kind of weak heroine who would cry, and that she would tell Mr. Yahayan everything later. Miss Cha asked if she really trusted SEO Yahayan that much. She answered with full confidence that she trusted him. She explained that Mr. Yahayan wouldn't change unless someone betrayed him first, and advised them to let her go if they wanted to live. Miss Cha felt strange, remembering that in her office, she had found that SEO Yahayan's alibi on the day her parents died was clear. She wondered in confusion what she had missed. In the car, Ihai noticed she could see the sea from the window and sadly remembered that they had planned to go together. She had never thought she would see it alone like this. Suddenly, the phone in the car rang, and Chang-Su told her that Mr. Yahayan was calling and that she should answer. She wondered if she could really answer. He reassured her, saying she could say whatever she wanted, whether she was kidnapped or who she was with, because everything was fine. Ihai wondered what conspiracy they were plotting, but she decided to answer the phone to avoid worrying them more. She answered the call and said Mr. Yahayan's name, and he anxiously asked if she was okay. She struggled to hold back her tears, ordering herself not to cry. She tried to reassure him that she was fine and told him that Miss Cha and Baekhyang were with her, apologizing for her sudden kidnapping. He, in turn, comforted her not to worry, confirming that they were tracking her location and were right behind her, asking her to hold on a little longer. He apologized to her, which surprised her, and she told him she felt sad because she was at the seaside now, the place they were supposed to go together. He promised her that they would definitely go together next year. She agreed, trying hard to suppress her tears, but they eventually burst forth. She heard Dokyun's voice on the phone, asking to speak with her for a moment. He called her name and swore that as soon as he saw her, he would immediately pick her up and rescue her. He added in a firm tone that after that, it would be useless for her to beg him to let go. She was stunned by his words, wondering if he meant he would save her or kill her with his own hands. In a panic, she started screaming, demanding they take her anywhere far away, that she wanted to escape. In another car, Dokyun was listening to his father confirm that Ihai was with Cha Yiryong and Baekhyang. Dokyun wondered angrily why they were specifically targeting Ihai. His father replied that since she entered this world, it had become inevitable that the people he cherished would be threatened. Dokyun sadly registered this inevitability and asserted that he didn't want to lose anyone else because of it. His younger brother also agreed. Mr. Yahayan confirmed he felt the same way, and the only thing certain was that they wouldn't dare to touch Ihai. Dokyun asserted that if they did, he would bury them all elsewhere. The kidnappers arrived at a container port, and Chang-Su decided the place was suitable. Ihai was forcibly thrown into a container, and Miss Cha apologized to her, explaining that it would be a bit hot in there. Ihai tried to stop them from closing the door. She pleaded with them to leave her outside, insisting she wouldn't run away and that she had claustrophobia. The container door closed in front of her, and she felt like she was really going to die. She started banging on the door violently, screaming that she wasn't lying and that she was really going to die. She felt a wave of dizziness, realizing that the painful childhood memories had not yet been forgotten. She wished she had never gotten involved with that bastard from the beginning. A red warning window appeared, announcing that she was feeling a threat to her life due to a trauma attack. She thought sadly that she would meet another bad ending in this absurd way. Suddenly, a new system window appeared, announcing an opportunity and a sudden quest. Escape from the truck, provided she made enough noise. This seemed difficult to Ihai, and she rebuked the system window for for taunting her when she was on the verge of death. The quest reward was an increase in Baekhyung's favorability and gaining Dokyun's infinite protection, while failure meant a coma with no guarantee of survival. A random box appeared before her, offering an escape tool if she chose a number. The options were the names of the SEO family members and Baekhyung, and she was surprised and bewildered by these dating sim-like options. A mysterious voice warned her to choose carefully, and that if she chose well, she might meet him behind the system window. She wondered who this person speaking to her from behind the system window was. The voice continued to provoke her, calling her a coward, so she decided to respond to the provocation. She began to think about who to choose. She ruled out Dokyun, as she imagined his terrifying threats, so she decided to choose Uncle Yahayan, as he was the oldest and wisest. She confidently chose the second number, which belonged to SEO Yahayan. Suddenly, a handgun appeared in front of her. She immediately recognized the gun. It was the exact one the heroine Yonsul used in one of the bad endings. She realized that giving her this gun at this time meant one thing. She wondered if he was asking her to walk the same tragic path, but she flatly refused such a fate, insisting she would never do that. She was determined to live no matter what. She was different from the original heroine. She grabbed the gun and fired at the container's lock, asserting that a crisis like this would not push her toward a bad ending. The force of the shot recoiled and hit her hand, but she succeeded in creating a gap in the door. She was surprised that the gunshot wasn't as loud as she had expected. She began to push the door hard, and as it started to open, she felt a wave of relief. Realizing she had survived, she peered through the gap to check the situation outside, wondering if they had all arrived. She caught a glimpse of 3 men standing at the port, SEO Yahayan and his 2 sons. She reassured herself that Yul would be fine, as he was just a kid and always in fear. But when she saw Dokyun's sharp gaze, she felt anxious, wondering if he was really going to bury someone. She decided her first priority was to get out of this place to save her life. She planned to head towards the bridge and hide quietly, and then meet up with Dokyun. But as soon as she got out, she was surprised to find Miss Cha watching her from truck. Miss Cha wondered in surprise how she had escaped. She commented that she was very talented and didn't seem like an ordinary heroine. She decided to observe her for a little longer and let her go elsewhere. On the other side of the port, SEO Yahayan was confronting Baekhyung and his men, asking him what he wanted. Suddenly, they heard a familiar scream, which shocked Dokyun, his father, and Baekhyung. As Ihai tried to slip away, one of Baekhyung's guards caught her and shouted in her face, asking how she got out and ordered her to go back immediately because his chief was still in a conversation. Ihai fought back against the guard who was trying to force her back into the container, screaming that she didn't want to go back. Suddenly, Dokyun appeared, swinging a powerful punch at the guard and knocking him to the ground. She saw Dokyun standing before her and happily called out his name, but she soon realized she was crying. He asked her why she was crying and walked toward her, angrily asking what those bastards did to her and vowing to kill them all. She tried to calm him down, explaining that it wasn't like that and that she felt relieved just seeing him. He gently cupped her face and apologized to her. Because she was so terrified, she admitted to him that she was really scared. She added that her old trauma had come back to haunt her, so he gently embraced her, comforting her that everything was okay now. He continued to soothe her, confirming that it was okay. Just as he was hugging her, a system window appeared, showing that his obsession level had increased. Ihai pondered the mysterious system window, wondering who was really behind it. Elsewhere at the docks, Mr. Ihayam was inspecting the bodies of Baekhyung's men, commenting that they weren't as easy to deal with as he had expected. He was surprised to see Miss Cha in a nearby truck. Baekhyung approached him, and Ihayam sarcastically commented that he did have some skills, then invited him to talk. Ihayam asked if he was in a hurry to explain and condemned him for resorting to such a childish hostage-taking act. He added sharply that he had even laid a hand on their child. Baekhyung admitted he wanted to threaten him, or more accurately, to make a deal with him. He explained that he was driven by curiosity about how important Baek Ihai was to him. He wanted to use her as bait in their deal. Ihayam asked about the terms of the deal. Baekhyung demanded he give up the new headquarters project. He explained that he wanted to know just how important the student Ihai was to his group and to him personally. He challenged him to prove it now. He proposed that he give up a core business in exchange for a promise not to harass Ihai again, or ignore his demand and wait for the next raid on her. Ihayam scoffed at him, pointing out his arrogance even after seeing his men down, but also acknowledged that he was not an easy opponent. Baekhyun walked toward him, telling him that when the time for their next meeting came, he would ask for his cooperation. Ahayam thought Baekhyun was an elusive person, completely different from his father, and wondered if what he was proposing was cooperation or a threat. Baekhyun told him he could take his time to think about it, and that he would wait. He then told him to take care on his way. Dokyun suddenly appeared and grabbed Baekhyun's blood-stained shoulder, telling him their conversation wasn't over. Ahayam was surprised by Dokyun's sudden appearance, but Dokyun didn't look back, his gaze sharp. Dokyun swore that Baekhyun would pay a heavy price for what he had done today. Baekhyun smiled despite his injuries and asked Dokyun not to hate him too much, explaining that he never intended to harm her from the start. He then asked Dokyun to take good care of the student Ihai for him before leaving. Meanwhile, Ihai was asleep elsewhere. Ihai woke up to find herself in a dazzling and unfamiliar place filled with white light, confused and wondering where she was. She realized she was no longer by the sea as she had previously thought, which heightened her confusion. Suddenly, a pink system window appeared before her with a smiling face, asking if she was awake, which startled her. Then a mysterious girl in futuristic clothing appeared before her, announcing that she was her, which confused Ihai even more. The two girls stood face to face in that digital space, and Ihai directly questioned her identity. Suddenly, the system window announced that the beginner tutorial was successfully completed and that she had finished the prologue. Ihai was shocked by the word tutorial. The mysterious girl explained that it was just as it seemed, and everything she had experienced so far was just an introduction. She congratulated her on surviving. As a reward for a very difficult chapter, since she had successfully won the favor of the entire SEO family, and not just SEO Dokyun, she presented her with the reward. She sarcastically praised her work in raising the favorability, admitting she hadn't expected much from her and thought she would die quickly. She then revealed that she knew her secret, wondering if her success was the result of all the dating simulation games she had played in her previous life. Shock enveloped Ihai, who wondered how this girl could know all this about her. But what bothered her more was the implication that her actions were strategic, suggesting she saw the SEO family's goodwill as mere programmed values in a game. She defended herself strongly, insisting that while she might have started that way, she had been treating everyone with sincerity for a long time and wondered if that was why they had opened their hearts to her. She concluded that what she felt was not just a value in a system, but real emotions. But the mysterious girl responded with sarcasm and doubt. The girl reluctantly agreed that she was sincere, but added that it didn't matter. She made her face a harsh truth. Her sincerity would not make them her real family. At this point, Ihai lost her patience and asked if she was done talking. A fierce anger took hold of her, and she wondered if this girl was trying to provoke her. She erupted in anger, arguing that it was natural to develop emotional attachments to real people she interacted with directly. In her rage, she swung a powerful punch at the girl, but it was blocked by an energy barrier. She yelled that she already knew all of this. The girl apologized, explaining that she wasn't trying to provoke her. She tried to soothe her and suggested they talk. But Ihai refused, deciding to get things straight now that they were face to face, and demanded she reveal her true identity. The girl agreed to her request and promised to tell her who she was. The girl then revealed her name was Player and that she had been watching her all along. The mysterious girl, who called herself Player, revealed that she was not only silently watching Ihai, but could also clearly read her thoughts, which dismayed Ihai. The surprise grew, along with Ihai's indignation, when Player explained she had the ability to influence the course of missions and assign rewards or punishments within the system, even if her control wasn't absolute. She loudly condemned this blatant invasion of her privacy. The conversation moved to a deeper level when Player asked if she wanted to know the real reason she was summoned to this world from the beginning. Ihai agreed, very seriously, eager to hear the answer. Player explained that there was a pressing wish she longed to fulfill, which was for the story's male lead to reach a true happy ending. Player showed a picture of the original female lead and the male lead in a happy state, which was what Ihai had expected, but seeing it brought a sudden pang of sadness. Hearing this, Ihai felt a heaviness in her chest, while Player approached her, telling her that Ihai herself had wished for this ending when she played the game, and now that she had user privileges, she was the ideal person to achieve this goal. Player noticed the strange expression on Ihai's face and leaned in to observe her features. Suddenly, Player asked Ihai a direct and embarrassing question, wondering if she had started to develop feelings of love for Seo Dokyeon, which left Ihai very confused, her face flushing with embarrassment. Confusion took hold of Ihai as she recalled moments of closeness with Dokyeon, wondering if it was her long-standing loneliness that had made her confused and misinterpret her feelings for him. Player warned her in a serious tone that she needed to think carefully, doubting if Ihai was truly capable of walking a romantic path with a character like Seo Dokyeon, even if she had succeeded in opening his heart. Player went on to point out that Ihai's success in getting close to the family might have been solely because she had stuck to her role as a supporting character and hadn't tried to overstep. Ihai felt the psychological pressure and asked in a desperate tone what she should do in the face of this complex situation. Player summarized the mission in one sentence: ensure a happy ending for everyone. This surprised Ihai, who wondered about the nature of such an ending. Player explained that the ideal happy ending required adjusting the intensity of the male lead's dark-leaning behavior. She displayed a picture of the male lead and the original female lead in front of Ihai. Player acknowledged that Ihai preventing Seo Ion's death and the Seo Yul incident had changed many things, but she warned that Dokyeon's abnormal state had not stopped, especially his growing possessiveness. Ihai recalled images of Dokyeon involved in violent scenes, where he threw powerful punches, which confirmed Player's concerns about his aggressive nature. Player confirmed there was plenty of time before the main story's plot began and asked Ihai to plan carefully and intensify her efforts to create an environment that could moderate the intensity of Dokyeon's personality. But the warning became darker as Player explained that ignoring the system's requirements would mean certain death, and that Seo Dokyeon himself would ultimately meet a miserable and terrible end. Player emphasized that Ihai's ultimate mission was to restrain Seo Dokyeon's behavior to achieve a happy ending that had never been seen in all the game's previous campaigns. Ihai remembered how she had once envied the love between Dokyeon and Yeonsu, a love that reached the point of sacrifice, but she now realized there was no reason to run from this new reality. Ihai felt the weight of the responsibility on her shoulders, especially for the younger members of the Seo family, and particularly for the difficult-natured Seo Dokyeon. With firm resolve, she declared her acceptance of the challenge, affirming her sincere wish for everyone to enjoy happiness. Player praised her choice, deeming it the right decision, and asked her not to feel bad about it. Player promised to provide a reward she would like later, but Ihai suddenly interrupted her, grabbing her clothes forcefully. Ihai angrily confronted her, calling her shameless for only appearing after her uncle was saved and a major crisis had been overcome by her alone. Ihai continued to scold her, questioning if she, as the system administrator, had properly fulfilled her duties in the first place. Ihai yelled in her face, complaining that she had done nothing but mock her with her own face, while Player tried to pacify her, and offered a different reward. Ihai demanded an immediate guarantee, stressing that monitoring was one thing, but reading her thoughts was completely unacceptable, and ordered her to stop. Player's image began to fade and flicker as she explained that the connection was becoming unstable and that today's session was about to end. Ihai, however, was yelling, demanding she leave some new missions or even a leak about what would happen in the future. The session ended with a text message from Player mimicking the sound of static, while Ihai angrily chased after her, demanding she come back and not run away before providing a satisfactory answer. Ihai woke up to the sound of her name being called. She opened her eyes to find Dokyeon standing before her, asking if she was awake. She called his name in confusion. She asked where she was. He told her she was in her room and that she seemed to be having a nightmare. Just then, Yul appeared calling her sister. She was surprised by everyone's presence, Yul and her uncle, Ihayam. Yul asked if she could sit up and offered for her to keep sleeping if she was tired. Dokyeon admitted he was scared and was glad she was back safely, as he had been very worried. He placed his hand on her forehead, and she thanked him. She suddenly sat up, remembering what had happened, and asked them about the fight on the beach, as it had seemed very violent. Yuri assured her not to worry. Yell explained that they had taken care of it, and although he himself wanted to intervene, his father and the organization's men had resolved the situation. Mr. Ihayam sighed, admitting that what happened was entirely his fault and that he should have protected her better, as the Baekhyun faction had orchestrated a public kidnapping to make an example of them. He tried to downplay the incident, describing it as just a small dispute over business, but Ihai wondered why she had been specifically targeted. Mr. Ihayam revealed to her that they realized she was his close confidant. At that moment, a series of system windows appeared before her, announcing that she would receive a reward for completing the tutorial, that Mr. Ihayam's favorability had reached its maximum, and that she would receive an additional reward related to the activation of family care. Dokyeon explained that they knew their family wouldn't stand by if she was in danger, which was why they kidnapped her. Ihai realized that was the reason, that she had become a member of this family. She asked him if that meant she was part of their family, and if that was why he was worried about her getting hurt. Mr. Ihayam confirmed that she was part of the family, and under his protection, emotion overwhelmed her, and she thought to herself that a family was something she had always thought she would never have. Dokyeon asked her not to cry, promising that from now on he would make sure she had no reason to shed tears. He added that although they weren't related by blood and hadn't spent much time together, she was a special case, and their family cherished her deeply. He was surprised that she was crying even more. He asked if he had said something strange. She replied that she was crying out of extreme gratitude. He asked if she was hungry, and she admitted to feeling a little hungry. Ihai said to herself, confirming that the SEO family cherished her like family, a feeling that wouldn't be as fleeting as player had claimed. But she admitted, the warmth she felt now was enough to make her believe in miracles, and she wanted to repay everyone by giving them a happy ending. She decided to accept this fate, even if her role was just a passing supporting character, as long as everyone could be happy. She resolved to secure a happy ending for the male lead, SEO Dokyeon. On another day, she found herself in a photo studio, having never imagined she would take a family portrait in this lifetime. Another system window appeared, announcing the activation of family affection for her. Although it was a good thing, she felt a strange sense of anxiety. She sarcastically wondered if player would even consider a family portrait as a reward from the system. She thought that her feelings for SEO Dokyeon were by no means strange or shameful. Her thoughts were interrupted by Dokyeon calling her name. She answered in confusion. He asked if she was ready. In a luxurious office with the name Baekhyun on it, Baekhyun was submitting a report to an older man, the chairman. The chairman asked if his report was about SEO Ihayam, to which Baekhyun gave an affirmative answer. He explained that SEO Ihayam's construction company had withdrawn from the new headquarters project and that a new team would take over next month. The chairman felt something was off, wondering how SEO Ihayam could have agreed so easily. He directly asked Baekhyun if he had managed to find some weakness of Ihayam's. Baekhyun flatly denied it. The chairman slammed his desk in anger, ordering him to focus on seizing the opportunities at hand instead of sitting around playing with corporate power struggles all day. He ordered him not to get arrogant just because he snatched one project and to use every ounce of his strength, even if it meant getting his hands bloody. He reminded him of his responsibility to the organization that bore his name. Baekhyun scoffed at the words of a man who had never gotten a drop of blood on his hands. The chairman sighed, but told Baekhyun that it was good to feel anxious and vowed that by this time next year, they would be discussing the merger of their faction with the CN1 group. Shock hit Baekhyun. He asked if it was meaningless, since the CN1 group was practically still being used like a dog by his father's faction. Suddenly, the chairman swung a powerful punch at Baekhyun. He berated his tone, telling him that just seeing his face reminded him of his mother and stirred his anger. The chairman admitted his disappointment in how Cha Yiriong was handled, but decided to demote her and transfer her to Baekhyun's team instead of killing her, out of respect for her late father. He warned him not to disappoint him again and ordered him to find the core strength that could completely annihilate Ihayam's group. Baekhyun left the office, thinking that the leader of the CN1 group was Miss Cha, whom he met at the door to his dismay. At the photo studio, Yeol was complaining about his hairstyle, saying it was terrible, but Dokyeon told him to stop complaining and just get the picture taken. The hairstylist apologized and offered to restyle it, but Mr. Ihayam reassured him that they had plenty of time. The photographer complimented Dokyeon's appearance and offered to take a solo shot of him for free as a main feature for the studio. Mr. Ihayam and Ihai sat together for a photo, and the photographer asked them to pose properly. Mr. Mr. Ihayam thanked her for agreeing to the family portrait so quickly, which might have seemed strange to her, so she expressed her gratitude and happiness that he considered her part of the family. Later, during Dokyun's solo photo shoot, Mr. Ihayam asked Ihai if she had been feeling better since returning from the beach. She replied enthusiastically that she was perfectly fine, and although she hadn't slept well since that day, her physical condition was excellent. He explained that he was referring to her mental state, not her physical one, and that the trauma must have been difficult for her. She wondered if Dokyun had told him about the truck incident and tried to downplay it, but he surprised her with his answer. He told her that he hadn't heard it from Dokyun, but from her mother a long time ago, which shocked her. Mr. Ihayam recalled his late wife's smile when she called him darling, and how she always smiled as if everything was fine. He admitted to himself that the smile still echoed in his mind, calling himself a fool, and called Ihai's name. He suggested reconsidering her engagement to Dokyun, believing she was far too precious for that, which took her by surprise. She joked that he should be on his son's side, but she thought to herself that this was a chance to cancel the engagement, which was necessary for the female lead to achieve a happy ending. She asked him how the engagement was originally decided, adding that if it was merely out of respect for her parents' will, she asked him to cancel it for her and Dokyun's sake. She tried to clarify that she didn't hate this family. Ihayam interrupted her, revealing that the engagement was his selfish decision, which shocked her. He explained that his desire for this engagement predated her parents' will. He revealed that her parents were his benefactors, and she was his personal responsibility. He had hoped this precious bond would continue through her and Dokyun. It was merely his personal wish. She inferred from his explanation that he had something else to tell her. She wondered what her parents' relationship with this family really was. Ihayam decided to tell her the truth, explaining that the trauma she still couldn't fully forget began on the day her mother hid her in the closet. That choice was the best decision she could have made at the time. Ihai realized that Becky Ihai in the story of Gangster's Love had gone through an experience similar to her own. Ihayam revealed that her father was his best friend and a member of his organization, and on that day, he was kidnapped and threatened because of him. She and her mother were dragged into it, their lives used as bargaining chips, making the situation unbearable. Ihayam remembered how helpless they were against the enemy's superior numbers, and how her father pleaded with them, asking about his daughter's whereabouts. The kidnappers mocked him, telling him his wife had hidden the daughter and that they were looking for her. The leader of the kidnappers revealed he wanted something very specific. Ihayam explained that the thing was his own wife, who had voluntarily offered herself as a hostage at the request of a close friend, planning to hold out as long as possible to ensure her family's safety. Ihayam described her decision as reckless, but admitted he would have done the same, and he had just returned from a business trip abroad when he learned everything. Ihai asked him to stop, but he told her that his wife lost her life on the same day her father died. Ihai was shocked by this truth. Realizing this made them sworn enemies. But he denied it, telling her that her father died trying to save his wife, and the person who saved Dokyun's life that day was her mother. Shock struck again as she remembered that Dokyun was also there at the time. Ihayam explained that it wasn't appropriate to tell his son's story as well, and what he wanted to say to her was that they both carried deep wounds, that they were the only ones who could comfort each other, and that his wife would never have blamed her parents. Ihai wondered if she really wouldn't, because if it were her, she would resent them. Over and over again, she realized that Becky Ihai's past and her relationships in this story were much heavier than she had imagined. Ihai realized her past and relationships in this story were more complex than she thought, feeling many questions piling up in her mind. As she processed this, Dokyun interrupted her thoughts, telling her the fever had subsided and it was time to go. She realized to herself that they didn't have time to wait for all the mysteries to be solved. She decided that the most important task now was to achieve a happy ending, and even though it seemed safe for now, her relationship with Dokyun could still become dangerous. Again, she wondered what kind of distance to keep from him and how to maintain it, especially after knowing what happened in his room that day. Dokyun contemplated the complexity of the situation, wondering why the staff were so talkative. He admitted to himself that it wasn't a bad thing after all this time, since Becky Ihai was there too. He was surprised that he was always thinking about her, but he wished her happiness. He tried to call Miss Cha, but her phone was off, He left her a voicemail, telling her he would never forget what she did and that she had definitely made a mistake. He warned her in his final message never to touch his family or beck Ihai again. Ihai rethought her complex past and intertwined relationships in Gangster's love, realizing it was much grander than she had anticipated. She felt the questions piling up, but decided the priority was to ensure a happy ending. She contemplated how her relationship with Do-kyun fluctuated between safety and danger. During the photo shoot, the photographer asked them to look at the camera, and she noticed she had zoned out. Do-kyun gently nudged her, telling her to stop thinking and look at the camera. She nodded in agreement, but continued to wonder how long to maintain this distance, and how. As the prologue of Gangster's love came to an end, the photographer took a family portrait of all of them. Her daily life became peaceful, as if nothing had ever happened. The series of quests and suffocating threats disappeared, and she felt as if she had always been a part of this world. One day, while she was studying, Do-kyun asked her to grade his English test. She was surprised he had finished the test so quickly and accused him of lying, but he told her to look at it first. She was shocked to see the paper filled with wrong and random answers, wondering what to do. She mocked him internally, thinking that with this level of intelligence, he might be better off remaining a hired goon. But he defended himself by saying he had filled in all the answers. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Yul, who called out to them enthusiastically. Ihayam realized to himself that this peace wouldn't last long. Yul suggested they go home and tease his brother, saying he should give up on studying in this lifetime because it wasn't his interest. Do-kyun agreed, but she realized that with the arrival of spring and winter, the time to give up this happy moment was fast approaching. They were walking down the street when Yul asked if she preferred red bean or cream-filled pastries. She enthusiastically replied that she preferred cream. Yul teased her, thinking she had no taste, but Do-kyun thought to himself that he also preferred cream. Yul teased Ihai, calling her a kid, and asked Do-kyun if he had ever seen such a big kid. Do-kyun intervened and confirmed he was also on the cream team, and told Yul not to get so close to her face, while she teased Yul, saying he had gotten arrogant just because he grew a little taller and it scared her. On the way home, Do-kyun told Ihai to get ready as soon as they got home, because she was going to master Krav Maga over the next week. She was shocked by the strange term, so he explained it was an Israeli self-defense martial art known for its effectiveness in quickly neutralizing threats. She was frightened by the seriousness of it all. Since that incident, Do-kyun began to train her rigorously in self-defense, constantly correcting her posture. Despite his strictness, she wanted to master it, sarcastically wondering if Mr. Ihayam felt the same way during the strange training she put him through. On a winter day, she gave him a piece of candy. She told him to eat the candy, and as he took it from her hand, a system window appeared, showing that the delinquent CO Do-kyun's heart rate had exceeded 999 beats. Do-kyun casually said it was cold and suggested they leave, but he was tripped by Yul's foot, who told him to stop running away. Ihai realized Do-kyun's accelerated heartbeat was undoubtedly because of her. She wondered what would happen if she didn't have the constraints that hindered her from achieving a happy ending, if she simply accepted his unwarranted attention towards her. As he urged her to hurry, she wondered why the male lead was so focused on her. She let herself indulge in these messy thoughts, convincing herself it was just a transitional phase. She made excuses for his attention, thinking that perhaps he hadn't met the original female lead, Yun Sol, yet, and realized that there wasn't much time left. On New Year's Eve, the family gathered to celebrate, remarking on the many changes they had experienced this year and raising a toast to the year's successful conclusion. Mr. Ihayam thanked Ihai for improving his son's grades and for making the house more lively. Yul praised his father for being right, saying his sister was the best. She expressed her gratitude and promised to take care of them in the future as well. She almost let it slip and mentioned next year, but stopped herself in time, promising to work even harder from now on while subconsciously avoiding Do-kyun's touch. She noticed his obsession value had risen again. She wondered why the obsession value had risen again, as his behavior had been strange ever since she was discharged from the hospital. She was annoyed that his obsession value was growing faster than his affection value, and although it might be the reason he protected her, she decided she had to find a way to gradually lower it, because a side character's useless emotions would hinder the achievement of a happy ending. She was determined to resolve these issues little by little before the main plot began. During dinner, she thanked Mr. Ihayam for his hospitality, claiming that she hadn't felt lonely at all for the past 6 months. Yeol asked her why she was having a sudden emotional outburst. Mr. Ihayam told her that she was no longer a guest or a stranger, but a member of the family. Yeol teased his father for stirring up end-of-year sentimental emotions. She laughed along as well, commenting that the party was very enjoyable. Late that night, after enjoying their time, she lay in bed, feeling sad as it felt like she had held a secret farewell party for herself. She thought that once the new semester began, she would have to devote herself completely to helping Yeon-sol. But on the bright side, the progress shouldn't be too difficult since she still remembered parts of the storyline from Yeon-sol's perspective. She believed that if she could guide them by following the moments when Do-kyun's violent tendencies subsided, she might be able to lead them to a happy ending more easily than expected. She remembered a scene from the game where he held Yeon-sol's hand on a beach while she was complaining of pain. Ihai recalled a touching scene from the game where Do-kyun sat on the beach, blaming himself for hurting the female lead, Yeon-sol, again. He wondered if she was scared and hated him, begging her to stay away from him. But she refused his request, admitting that she loved him and comparing him to a frightened stray cat, which surprised him. She told him that she might not be able to fully understand everything he had been through, but she assured him that she wanted to stay by his side. He asked her why, and she admitted she didn't know the reason either, that it might just be an irresistible force. Ihai's thoughts returned to reality, wondering if achieving their love required more than just an irresistible force. She decided that no matter what, they had to find happiness, and by then, she had to be prepared to leave. She wasn't sure if seeing the happy ending would return her to the real world, so she decided to find a way to survive in this world. She checked her bank account, which had a large sum of money in it. She noticed a countdown on her phone showing 370 days until she turned 20 and considered getting a part-time job next year. Her thoughts were interrupted by Do-kyun, who suddenly entered the room and asked her what she was doing with the door open. He told her he had just arrived. He scolded her for her lack of vigilance and told her they were going to start Krav Maga training immediately. She protested his demand, explaining that if she trained now, she would throw up everything she had eaten. Her phone slipped from her hand, and he described her as unfocused. She tried to pick it up, but he beat her to it. He noticed the countdown on the screen and asked if she was waiting for something next year. She hesitated to tell him, but felt that surprising him later would be worse. She decided to tell him the truth. She explained that she planned to move out and live alone after becoming an adult and would start preparing for it next year, which shocked him. He ruled out the possibility that his father was pressuring her to leave. So she assured him it was her own idea, that she didn't want to be a burden to them, especially since her parents will require them to take care of her only until she became an adult. She smiled and told him that she wouldn't delay and would be gone by this time next year. He grabbed her angrily, wondering how she could plan all this by herself when they had just become a family. He accused her of planning to leave because she must have felt uncomfortable. Ihai tried to calm him down, insisting that he should take her words literally, that she would only leave when the time was right, but he refused to believe her. She asked him why he was overreacting, considering it shouldn't matter if someone like her disappeared. He flew into a rage, reminding her that when she was on the verge of death, his entire family had watched over her, afraid of losing her. He wished she would be honest with him and tell him if she was tired of the chaos that came with associating with his family, so he could find a solution, but he hated the idea of her hiding her true feelings and planning to run away alone. She commented that he looked strange, and he replied that he didn't. Then he revealed the real reason for his worry. They were about to get engaged. Just then, a system window appeared, announcing the activation of a surprise event. He moved a little closer, asking her to talk to him, so that he could solve the problem. She felt he was too close and decided not to panic. She told him that this was exactly what made her feel uncomfortable. She admitted to him that she liked kind people, but he could be scary at times. A warning window appeared, showing that his abnormal status was beginning to fade.